Chapter 175. You need to evacuate while I hold them off, I tell Sinead. We'll rappel down the cliff, walk along the wall. Meet at evacuation site 1? You got it. And be careful, Puppet. The plan will work without them, he whispers, but not without you. You must return. I will. Now go. With one last nod, the Prince of Summer races out in his warm coat, herding the weakened Lycians towards the main keep. I am left alone in the deserted, icy courtyard. Quickly, I remind myself of the basic engagement rules I set for vampire combat. First, I must absolutely keep my identity secret. Using blood magic might out me as a vampire because of the inherent potency of my spells, though I might be able to mask my aura for a few simple spells. Using Rose or my Magna Arca will lead to an easy identification and must be saved as a last resort. Finally, being hurt will lead me to be recognized. The Vanheim essence can change my smell a little, but it will do little for spilt blood. To summarize, I need to survive a fight with a warlord without using my soul weapon, my Magna Arca, heavy magic, and without being hurt. A completely achievable and reasonable goal. I sigh. This smooth-talking summer snack will be the end of me. Speaking of snacks, what is the warlord doing? He flared his aura and then stopped. I wait, and then wait a few more seconds with my axe held in front of me. It takes a little longer before the heavy barbican gates open with ponderous slowness. The warlord is still there, I can taste his aura. It feels strangely familiar. Male, old, powerful and Adver. Outside of his domain. Those lands belong to Nina of the Dver, and those territorial old monsters never cohabit. Whoever faces me now will do so outside of their domain, weakening them considerably and blocking access to their Magna Arca. It will not save me, but it will help. The gates are open. They lead to an underpassage and the fortress exit on the other side, so tantalizingly close. The distant mountains on the other side of the valley call to me, but there is an obstacle in the way. He walks carefully from a side door, sword and shield on display. I realize that I know him. Before me stands Comenius, the man who led the assembled Dver Knight forces against the skeleton mages of the last city only a few years ago. Although, to me, it certainly feels like an eternity. The old general is still his wizened, gray-bearded self. His sharp traits remind me of ancient sculptures more than of any current ethnicity I have ever come across. Dark blue eyes peer at me from the barely lit entrance with wariness. What a thoroughly unexpected outcome. Comenius fears me. Or rather, he fears what I represent, Lycians capable of fighting back. My presence with an axe and my obvious lack of emotions can only mean that the master of the place fell to me. Comenius does not know how I proceeded. He is ancient and cautious, rather than brash like some masters who believe themselves invincible. Also significant is his leadership at the helm of a force that battled enemies our kind had never faced before. He, more than the others, must keenly feel that the world grows wider and more mysterious every year. I must capitalize on that, but how? Acting is required. Unfortunately, I am forced to improvise while Comenius has centuries of experience dealing with machinations. Unless I do not have to be smarter. I could just be more upsetting. After all, even I find making a strange and he is on my side. I merely need to don the proper mask. I am Lycian. I find eyeballs tasty. No, I really cannot. It is not in my nature. Even the guise of seekers of lost memories I wear will not do since I have never met one, and thus cannot impersonate them. I need a character close enough to my natural disposition so I do not fail, but strange enough to dissuade Comenius from engaging. I need teeth. Power. I need to be different, far from the smug superiority of summer and distant haughtiness of the blue. Give me teeth. Give me hunger. Cold. I am winter. I have devoured every bloodline on this planet, and I have more to taste on the plains. I know the polar winter, and I have seen the northern end of the world where ice reigns to the horizon and beyond, and the green lights of auroras reflect on permafrost. I have walked into battle clad in cold. I have tasted it, used it. I have broken houses and left nothing behind but blackened beams jutting up like broken teeth. Tufts of hair, gobbets of meat. Oh yes, I understand winter. It is a trap, a degenerescence as numbing and painless as hypothermia. In a way, that is what being a rogue entails. They forget themselves and abandon their minds to the plenitude of pure instinct. I will never walk that path, but I will happily wear its trappings for an evening. Oh yes, this will be fun to play a little. I hunch forward a little and let my arm fall forward. A beast of winter has no need for posture, for nobility. I am power unleashed and ravenous. The Vanheim essence extends to its very limits to change my face, answering my need for a more feral persona. Oh yes, this will be fun. I am not just my blade and magic. I am the dedicated student of countless masters and the survivors of many close battles. I will show him. A warrior Fey. Now I have seen everything, he declares with false bravado. I know enough about old fighters to see that he is looking for the trap. Don't understand a word I say, hot lass? Weird one you are. I do not react, just follow him with my eyes. He glares with annoyance and takes a step forward onto the courtyard and out of the cover of the barbican. Perhaps he is expecting fire or sunlight? No tricks, come closer. Why Samuel? I slowly tilt my head, and still I do not speak. You can try every language under the sun and the others, dear Comenius, I shall not answer. As for Samuel's fate, he must have guessed it. Comenius suddenly kneels and picks up a stone, which he throws at me at a speed no mortal could follow. I move the axe's handle by a hair, deflecting the projectile. I still wait. Well, nothing to it. Comenius charges, shield high. I smile. I feel my cheeks split to my ears, revealing a forest of needles. By the Watcher, this feels eerie. The effect on Comenius is even more dire, and he unexpectedly flinches, which means that he reacts just a little slowly when I hook the axe's head into the side of his shield and send him careening. He manages to roll midair and land on his feet. I am immediately on him. I know how to face a shield user. Manfred, you who sacrificed your life to hold Octave at bay, your lessons will not be in vain. Strikes to the side, to the head, low then high, high then low, I unleash a whirlwind of mighty blows on Comenius, forcing him into the defensive. Any lesser weapon would have shattered an impact before the sharpened art of Sivain. Even a magical shield would be a mangled piece of scrap by now, but this is a soul weapon I face and its user is old and patient. Comenius disengages and shifts to prevent me from peeling him open. He angles it with minimum effort, deflecting my attacks with thunderous sounds. Nevertheless, the power I put in every swing forces him back again and again until he finds an opening. He dodges under a beheading attempt and charges forward, which is exactly what I wanted. A firm kick in the shield forces him to stumble, a risky maneuver but one I started in his blind spot. The return strike is so strong that I smash him against the nearby stable wall. Tiles fall from the roof onto his head even as I almost decapitate him. Right, this is not working. Comenius' style changes to one of unstoppable offense. He charges shield first right into me until I am in stabbing range of his gladius. I do not change mine, I attack as well. We just smash into each other with the power of two warlords, and I progressively see the fear of the unknown disappear in the eyes of my enemy, soon replaced by the joy of battle. I knew I liked the old Coger. He understands. Our fight spills over the entire courtyard in a whirlwind of unbridled destruction. We demolish the barn, collapse the well, turn every crate to kindling. At one point, he throws an anvil at my face and the return shot sends the lump of steel through the keep's unlocked gate, breaking the unworded lock. Whenever he manages to close the distance, I attack with my claws and force him to move back. Otherwise, I bash him to my heart's content. At no point did my ghastly smile fade, but now it is matched by his, sharp and bloody from a lucky punch. Not bad, lass, not bad. I cannot wait to taste you. You can try. Comenius adapts to my wild style with small, sharper gestures. In return I adapt to his with more overhead, massive strikes followed by low horizontal cleaves that force him to block with all he has. Once he tries to jump over it and I adjust my course, tossing him back into the Barbican's passage. A few humans from the convoy have come to watch the fight and recoil when the Lord lands in front of them. They look positively terrified. I have to give it to Comenius. He grows sharper and closer to hitting me as the fight progresses, but at the same time I have more openings. I manage to hit his arm once, then the blade of the axe bites in the back of his leg, causing him to fall. None of those are debilitating injuries, yet the sight of his blood on my weapon throws him into a frenzy. Eventually, it happens. A lucky counter lets him force my axe to slip on his shield and his blade rushes to my heart. I twist on myself at the very last moment. A soul blade can rip through stone. A soul blade wielded by a lord can tear through steel. The scales of my armor sing when the edge of his gladius slides on them. I hear chimes. I see Comenius' eyes widen with complete befuddlement. I kick him in the jaw and send him flying through the air for what feels like the 7th time tonight. Right, I have overstayed my welcome by a large margin. We have been fighting for minutes, an impossibly long time for vampire contests. The Fae must be long gone by now, even if they were weakened. I have tempted fate one time too many. While he recovers, I jump on the keep's walls and scale their sheer surface, claws digging into the rim-covered granite. Not so fast. A gentleman should know when to abandon his pursuit. I reach the balcony garden and jump over its edge, possibly triggering half a dozen alarms as I go. I reach the top and find 2 dead sentries. Comenius is right behind me, shield strapped to his back. He had to dematerialize his blade. Our eyes meet and I smile indulgently. Then, I press the remote control of the bomb I placed in the recreational area. With a near-shattering blast, the entire floor explodes. Comenius lifts his shield just in time to avoid a warded shatter to the face. Smoke and debris fill the air and slowly, almost lazily, the top of the keep slides into the empty air, masonry and all. Ah! I might have overestimated the resilience of their wards. I jump to avoid the avalanche of stones and wood. Below me, the Arenwald forest extends to the snow-clad peak above. I turn to see if Comenius recovered. He did. He is watching me. His face goes through a series of emotions with blinding speed. Shock gives way in tense thought, then to disbelief. His mouth forms a O of complete surprise. He smiles and dips an invisible hat. I detonate the second bomb in the basement. He flees into the Barbican, leaving the collapsing courtyard behind. I might have been found out. While our infiltration was slow and subtle, our flight is a ceaseless race across the wilderness. Sinead once more demonstrates that he is more than just an actor by leading us without fault from camouflaged cave to hideout, all of those prepared long in advance. At no point did he inform me of their locations for operational security, which I can accept since our meeting point is the ship and I am more than capable of looking after myself. We encounter our first difficulty during the first day when one of the prisoners attempts to kill Mr. Elusive. I did not expect that, to be quite honest, yet Sinead did, and I find enough nourishment to be sated for a good week that very night. It reminds me that the Lycians are a vast and diverse people arrayed across multiple planes of existence. In fact, we are the isolated, parochial planet in their eyes. It so happens that Mr. Elusive's court has a sinister reputation. It also happens that the Seekers of Lost Memories keep a close eye on its members and have decimated them in the past. My identity as a vampire revealed, the Lycians regard me with confusion rather than the hatred I expected. For many of them, my apparent altruism is more alien than the predatory policy of using them as blood fonts. It speaks poorly of the general climate of ethics and courtesy across the spheres, and reinforces my concerns that Earth will face many dangers in the near future. The supplies and artifacts the Prince of Summer prepared allows us to reach the port of Fiume unimpeded, where the cunning man finally delivers on his promise. This is what Mr. Elusive delivered, he tells me, showing me maps and coordinates. What are those? Let me tell you a story, Puppet. A short time ago, Inaru and Masquerade War. You will have to be more specific. And during that war, a masked convoy escorting a few of my compatriots was lost. Tragedy. When those two esteemed, honest, and reasonable factions agreed on a ceasefire. The Anaru negotiators swore that they had no knowledge of their fate, and they told the truth. Let me guess. Those who had taken the Lycian failed to inform them that they had conducted the raid. What a devious little thing you are. There is hope for you yet. Yes indeed, and withholding such information could be construed as a violation of the terms of the agreement if Mask were to be made aware. Now, of course, Mask could very well demand compensation in a mature and patient way, estimating that Ledver would do the honorable thing and not hide their prize in a different location while denying everything. Please, my sides. Or they could come across the exact location of their lost possession as well as the timetable of the expected visitors and security code. They might then decide to resort to some dubious means rather than solve their problem through diplomacy. Unfortunately, said document will fail to notify them of the trackers. My heart would freeze in my chest if it could. Trackers? Of course I disabled them immediately upon freeing my kin. You have nothing to fear. I have much to fear from you. How do you even know all of this? The vampires have servants, and those servants know a great deal. You Nightwalkers never touch each other's precious pets. I have no such qualms, though I know better than to break your emotional support humans. Making us killed one. It was an accident, we did not expect one to be present. I am sorry for causing you undue distress. The unspoken hangs between us like a cloud. Comenius suspects me, and his knowledge will spread to his most high-ranking allies in the aftermath of the flaring war that will come, for I have no doubt that Mask will enjoy collecting on their debt as much as they will stabbing at a surprised rival. Similarly, Sapphire will take less than a month to link my disappearance with some well-timed European shenanigans. Although no one will have proof and no one will dare pursue the matter, the powers that be will come to associate my operation with the loss of a vassal, then with a new war between old enemies. My already sulphurous reputation will inflate to the very heights of infamy. Do I regret it? No, because like in many things, it comes down to the bottom line. I cannot allow Bertrand, leader of the expansion faction, to take over the New World. It is simply unthinkable. There is a century left before the final, cataclysmic finale to the millennial conflict between my sire and his mother dearest. I have no time to rebuild a power base, and therefore cannot allow myself to be exiled or worse. The Accords will survive. They must. If I am to keep its foes at bay through trickery and infamy, then so be it. I never sought to make allies of the Europeans to begin with. Those mighty factions certainly share the appetizing presence of a fruit basket, with might and opportunities aplenty. All the better to hide the cobra of Byzantine politics and infighting. This is not a battlefield I can win on. And so I will have to make do with a daunting reputation. That is also fine. It is better to be renowned for ruthlessness than for incompetence. I suppose I could have pursued other avenues than an alliance with the Lycians, but I have no regrets here either. Their fate pains me. The possibility of antagonizing every faction of an ancient and powerful species remains a strong incentive as well. Sinead being charming remains the most powerful of all, but I would rather not dwell upon that thought. Worry not, Puppet. Remember, I am on your side, the man himself whispers with certainty as we arrive on the pier. The thought comforts me a little because he is himself a force to be reckoned with, but my attention is soon lost when I feel an aura flare in surprise far to my left. When I turn to watch, I catch the edge of a coat made horizontal through a sheer speed. Someone has spotted us, someone with inhuman reflexes. It appears that the game is up. If the Anaru doubted my involvement before, now they have absolute proof. Of course, they would be watching the ports, I grumble. Is the ship compromised? Sinead suddenly asks. I shrug, uncertain. The sleek hull of the Spirit of Dalton exhibits no signs of tempering, and those who lower the gangway are the usual suspects including the Dverger captain. Lothar, any anomalies? People sniffing around the place, the bearded man grumbles, might be suspecting us. Prepare to depart immediately. A lookout found us. Aye, ma'am. I allow the liberated Lycians to move below deck while I inspect the outside of the ship, finding nothing. The protective wards and crew appear free of outside influence, though my inspection leaves many shaken by the sudden charm to check for foreign influence. Soon, we are underway and I find my place topseed with my throne and my tricorn. Finally, I can figuratively breathe a little. "Do we expect problems, ma'am?" Lothar asks as we proceed south along the coast at cruising speed. "If they knew you were our way out, the Spirit would be already sunk. Fortunately, there are many ports in Europe and we managed to hide our trail. Now that we were spotted, I expect other ships to be sent after us, so keep your eyes peeled and do not stop for anything." "What if we are hailed by warships? What sort of dread pirate answers the Navy's summons?" "Aye, ma'am, orders understood. Our crossing of the Adriatic Sea happens without hassle, due I suspect to the time it takes for the interception order to reach the right hands. Lothar keeps us on course but avoids the most common lanes even if it makes the journey longer. The Mare Nostrum is vast and mostly empty outside of those well-traveled areas, and we make progress. Unfortunately, I know what it means. They will be waiting for us at Gibraltar, I say one evening. That is unfortunate. On a more encouraging note, the Lycians have obeyed the first rule of the seas, which is that everyone must wear tricorns, so not all is lost. We can face the odds in high spirits. Lothar is no dilettante. We approach the straits under the cover of stormy clouds, taking full advantage of the approaching winter solstice and its inclement weather. Heavy rain batters the reinforced hull as we make our approach under the cover of silence and the complete absence of lights. I remain on the deck and inspect the rock and its vicinity from afar. There, I find 3 squadrons of warships awaiting us, including one ironclad. Her black-painted hull and red border give her the appearance of some snake waiting to bite. Discretion will be the better part of valor here, at least at first. "Ma'am. All hands ready. Half speed. Lower the rig and engage stealth protocols. Have everyone ready to implement the ghost stratagem." Now the Spirit of Dalton has been called a vanity project and other unflattering names by both Melusan and Safar, which shows once again that I am the most visionary female vampire of the New World bar none. I will not challenge Constantine, since he's developing a battle golem that can be piloted by a sealed sarcophagus and I cannot top that. Nevertheless, the Spirit has retractable mass made of relatively light, magically reinforced steel. Their hollow nature allows them to be folded and then withdrawn into the hull, giving us a much smaller profile. With the rig hidden, the ship is propelled by a corkscrew turbine situated at the back of the ship, while the steam itself is recovered and recondensed to prevent trails. It is a marvel of engineering, and I will eat whoever calls me an uncultured wannabe sailor. I even added a few surprises. "Aye, ma'am." Like a prowling sea dragon, the Spirit cleaves the black waves on its course west. Unfortunately, alarms ring on the leftmost squadron. Flares soon bring a blue light over the seas, but they are launched too early and the eyes of mortal sailors fail to find us. As for me, I find the culprit behind our early detection in the presence of a vampire pointing impotently in our direction while a British officer watches on, politely incredulous. I doubt that mask had the time to learn of my little adventure, and I am certain that Eneru would not ask them for help, so an Eneru agent must have taken control of British warships. Oh, the Hastings will not like that, not at all. War is all but certain now, which will help us little if we are blown to smithereens. Lothar steps next to me, a tad nervous, but I choose to wait. I signal to maintain course, which places us on an intercept path with the vampire-occupied trio. If we are to face them anyway, better to face them alone rather than provide targets for the other groups as well. The vampire watches us approach with disbelief tinged with concern. It is not every day that a civilian ship charges the Royal Navy in the age of the Pax Britannica. Finally, the next flare reveals our presence and shouts echo across the 3 ships. They slowly swerve to present their broadside and the many maws of their cannons. The vampire looks even more concerned when we show no signs of slowing down. I signal to Lothar. He whistles, the signal strangely distorted. Spectral green fire suddenly erupts from our sides thanks to well-positioned barium nitrate burners, while I cast an illusion to give the sailor's flesh an ethereal quality. Unexpectedly, Sinead pops out from a trapdoor with his Lycians in tow, now undressed except for the tricorns, or I would have complained, and covered with white, pearly paint. They start dancing madly. Sinead winks. Music plays while our masks extend again, basked in phantomatic radiance. Hidden vents belch steam in our wake. On the warships, the silence is deafening. Every last mortal watches us sail with open mouths and eyes as wide as saucers. The vampire recovers first and vociferates, but in vain. We have gone through. I signal again and all the fires peter out at the same time. The music is silenced and the rig disappears once more into the hull. Our steam engine is pushed to the limit to leave the blockade behind. So yes, that was quite nice. I did not know you could perform such amazing bluffs, Ariane, Sinead declares in Lycaean. The tricorns, the dancers, all conspire to give your ship the guise of the Flying Dutchman. I admire your dedication. Yes, this is absolutely why I insist on all of those things, totally. You taught me that pleasure and results could go hand in hand when it comes to deception, I generously allow. Indeed, Sinead replies, suddenly suspicious. I give him my best smile. Ma'am, one of the ships is giving chase. I react at the warning and confirm that yes, indeed, the vampire's chosen flagship has turned and now follows us at great speed. I believe we could outrun them given time, however, that would simply not be fun. Very well, deploy the gun. Ma'am, deploying. Now, having plenty of cannons can considerably slow a ship down, not to mention the tall hull required to hide them all. That is why I have a single turret and the turret harbors a single gun, which slowly extends from its hiding place. It would be incorrect to say that I designed the ship around the gun, but it would not be completely false either. Loth helped. It is my pride and joy. What, in the name of the spheres, is that? Sinead exclaims at the glorious sight. It is not even yet fully erect yet, just you wait, I reply with joy. Did you really need such a monstrosity? Captain Lothar, what is the third rule of the sea? Firing on the same target a second time should only be done for entertainment purposes. There you have it. The gun as it is commonly known finishes its deployment and the turret slowly rotates towards a quickly panicking vampire. Maintain course, angle 193, elevation -3.5. Ma'am, 193, -3.5. By the water, this is so fun. Solid shot, I concede. I could use an explosive one to get a kill, but I would rather not poke the hornet's nest any more than I already have. Are you sure you want to fire at a British warship? Sinead asks with a little concern. My dear, half of the fun of being a dread pirate is firing at the Royal Navy. Brace. What's the other half? The Fae mumbles as I move forward to get a better view. Ramming, sir, Lothar says. Oh. Fire. I had to design new hydraulic shock absorbers to prevent the gun from tearing the spirit in half. It shows. The cataclysmic boom generates a shockwave that extends over the waves, flattening them. Over here, ice magic-based cooling mechanisms hiss. Over there, a dreadful clang sings the dirge of the ironclad's lower hull, as well as that of the pursuit. She's sinking, ma'am, Lothar comments laconically. Ha ha ha, yes. Ahem. I meant to say that they could keep her afloat with some effort, I reply. They merely have to condemn a few sections. I think? That vampire seems a tad angry. Ah, but this was delightful. Come to think of it, I have not yet lost an engagement at sea, I observe. Sinead shakes his head and withdraws. I am left pondering on my throne while a cabin boy dances a merry gig, as it should be. We have everything we need for the ritual. Before we proceed, I will have the enviable task of convincing the Accords that I triggered an international incident for their sake, all while preventing the creation of a blood-draining facility on our territory. Once this is done, I will handle the penultimate step of the ritual. We need to set up a fortress on the other plane, where only skeletons and mana hounds dwell. It might be a bit challenging. Chapter 176. What were you thinking? By the eye, Ariane of the Nerari, are you out of your mind? I sit back and relax, letting Safa vent. I shall have to endure Constantine's ire later and would rather preserve my strength. You enter Inaru territory secretly. You help Faye escape vampires. You sink a Royal Navy warship. I smile at the recollection, despite my best efforts. Ariane of the Nirari. This is no laughing matter. Enough of this. How old are you really? By the eye, I cannot possibly imagine how I thought you mature and reliable. Next you'll tell me you stole that organ as well. Unfortunately, my light smile freezes on my face ever so slightly, and the cunning socialite that is the Hastings lady picks up on it. She leans above her desk with fury on her brow just as I regain my composure. Her pale blue eyes bore into my soul, or they would if I still had one. She cracks the wood under her dainty claws just from anger. I had never seen such a loss of control from the smooth-cored animal. Ariane. 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 Why? How did you even hear about that? How could I not? This is the most bizarre crime in the century. All of Christendom is screaming in outrage. Pope Pius IX even made a public declaration. I am more than famous, I am infamous. Answer me, why? For fun and because I cherish Tauron's happiness. We could call it a proof of concept. The concept being whirling up the mortals into a frenzy. She asks, aghast. Oh please. They are not truly outraged, they are amazed and intrigued. You know mortals. We are not discussing the merits of scandals, we are talking about your inexcusable actions. I cannot in good conscience shield you from their consequences. What were you thinking? She places both hands over her face, then a second later, glares at me from between her fingers. I sincerely hope you were not hoping to keep the Fae for your personal consumption. Of course not. So you do not object to us seizing them? By all means, if you can find them. Ariane. I lift both hands to show my lack of resistance. I am not fighting you, merely saying that I released them. You. What? I solemnly swear that I don't know where they are. I let them go. Ha! 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 I believe I may have broken her. Saphira screams, a shrill sound that pierces through the Boston fortress to herald danger. The small lady then grabs a bust from a pedestal near her window and smashes the glass to pieces. Then, she jumps through it. How very dramatic. I inspect my fingers until a knock on the door heralds the coming of more questions. Always more questions. Come in. Constantine Stewart and Boston Fortress Master enters the room. Wilhelm wears a black suit but leaves his beard and long blonde hair flowing free, offering an interesting contrast. Is everything fine here? Saphira felt unwell and decided to go for a walk. Through the window? Very unwell. Ariane, I appreciate levity as much as the next man, but I cannot overstate the danger you are in. Your stunt has placed you in great peril from the Accords as much as from Inaru, and even perhaps Mask. As someone who respects you, I would advise you to prepare your defense because you will be tried for this rash action, quite possibly by Constantine himself. I stand and turn to face the Renwald Lord who has expressed a more straightforward opinion than most of his peers would. It was heartfelt and I feel compelled to answer his favor in kind. Lord Wilhelm, I am a busy woman. How many times do you expect me to answer the very same questions? Whatever do you mean? Why have you done that? How would you answer those accusations? Our dear kin will want an explanation and I will provide them twice and no more. Saphira will calm down and listen when she is ready. In the meanwhile, I have much work to do. Wilhelm considers me in silence for a moment. I cannot read his expression. Will you at least give me a hint? I ponder his request for an instant. He is a brave and honest man and deserves that much. I will emasculate the expansion faction's military for the foreseeable future, thus preventing them from winning the next war against us. The one they are preparing for right now? Quite so. I hope you are right, Ariane of the Nirari, but if you are, I will be very impressed. We shall see. I hope to be impressed as well. I really do. The council room has always struck me as a place of potential. An unfamiliar spectator might equate our ancient garbs with obsolescence or associate the stone seats with stagnation, but it would be a mistake. As in many aspects that concern the aristocracy of the night, the truth lies beneath the thin mask. The unmoving monsters are not statues but powerful beings ready to pounce at the first sign of aggression. The controlled auras betray odd variations, signs that their owners hate cramped space and the proximity of their kin. Councils are not in like the final moment of a pendulum swing. The ball has slowed down to near immobility, only to come hurling back. I must grab the attention before the rest of the wardens fall on me like several brick houses that someone would have set on fire. To come forth for explanation would normally be unwise. It acknowledges the authorities of others. It weakens my position, implying that the approval of my fellow wardens matters to me, an unthinkable proposition. Wardens are only held accountable when tried. I, however, have gone too far. The Accords are willing to tolerate the odd bout of piracy or government destabilization. I bet even the occasional town could be razed to the ground. Clearly, crossing the Atlantic to trigger a war between vampiredom's two mightiest factions crossed a limit. Rather than waiting for the inevitable trial, I have decided to go on the offensive, so to speak. Safar and Constantine approved the plan. I ran it by Sinead to be certain it was the best choice on the off chance that the pair had decided to sacrifice me to my rivals. He agreed. Constantine climbs down the stairs and gives me a cold look. He has not quite digested my little escapade, not that I blame him. Soon, the session begins with the usual greetings. The few more urgent issues are solved expeditiously. Barring a few exceptions, all of the wardens are present. Everyone wants to get to the meat of the subject, so to speak. For the next order of business, Ariane of the Nirari wishes to share her findings from her recent trip to Europe. After consideration, I elected to merge this topic with the accusations of reckless endangerment of the Accords some of you have raised considering they were linked. Since Ariane of the Nirari volunteered to present an explanation, I will let her talk first. The session will conclude with a vote to go or not to trial. Lady Nirari, you have the floor. I stand up as Constantine sits. Thank you, Speaker. As most of you have heard by now, a fey-holding and blood-harvesting facility in Austria was attacked and its residents were taken. I was involved in this operation. I helped to transfer the fey captives to new owners. Technically true since Sinead is their leader. When it comes to vampire negotiations, technically true remains the best choice. Semantics matter to us almost as much as to the Lycians. Normally, I would despise half-truths terribly, but we are playing a game with other rulers. I am not truly collaborating with them, I am deceiving them to protect Sinead, who was my ally from the start. Curse him and his handsome face. I realize that my actions appear reckless to casual observers, and I will endeavor to enlighten you as to my motivations. Before we begin, I swear that it is my firm belief that what I have done will benefit the Accords in the short and long term. The clear oath takes and holds. I do believe that depriving hostile factions of Lycian blood will significantly even the playing field. The truth is that the Accords do not have access to any blood harvesting facility and that, by law, any resource found locally belongs to the territory's warden. By extension, captured fey are the property of the captors and no one else. Those of us who managed to find those rare and elusive creatures have kept it to themselves, me included. I moved to answer a request from an entity I shall not name. I shall keep secret the details of the operation, but know that my end of the bargain allowed us to gain a significant advantage in faction politics. A Roland Lord raises a hand. I allow the interruption. Please elaborate. What advantage? Nothing less than a major, unplanned war between the Inaru and Mask factions. The wardens blink and turn their head, the vampire equivalent of a strong reaction. Are you quite certain? Someone asks out of turn. It is true, Lord Saron says in a smooth voice. Some of my export contracts were cancelled because of flaring hostilities. I received reports that Baden-Baden and Lausanne were attacked. Information remains difficult to obtain due to the improvised nature of the conflict. Safar confirms, though I can tell you that conflict is occurring as we speak. How did you achieve this? Another asks. Elements of Eneru violated the previous peace agreement with Mask without the signatories' knowledge. I presented Mask with an opportunity for revenge by providing the location and security access for other Fey prisons. I reply. Very tempting. How long does that grant us? Although we have not addressed the situation yet, all of the wardens know Mask will attempt another conquest sometime soon. It is difficult to ascertain, Safar admits. Then she reveals a precious nugget with her usual flair. However, I just learned that Jean-Baptiste landed in Mexico a couple of nights ago. The scythe user? Jarek asks. I met the man in Paris when I visited the Undercity. He is one of Mask's deadliest combatants, perhaps on par with Jarek himself. That is not all. The twins Andre and Vincent came with him. The same who pierced my heart. What a small world. They mean war, Saron observes. Certainly, and on a much shorter time frame than we expected, Safar continues. This diversion could not have come at a better time. In fact, they could very well decide to proceed with the offensive. Safar warned me, of course. The truth is that even with Fey blood, they would still be at a small disadvantage according to our estimates. Of course, theirs could be different and they might believe they hold the advantage. They might even be correct. The escaped prisoners, what of them? Someone finally asks. I delivered them to a contact in Morocco. You have my word that I do not know where they are at the moment, and I have no claim on their blood. The old ones eye me suspiciously. I left much unsaid and there are loopholes, yet to lose sight of captive Fey implies that I either gave up on them or trust the unknown party blindly. I would be curious to know who that contact of yours is. I shake my head. I believe I have proven that my behavior did not recklessly endanger the Accords. Beyond that, my deals are my own, I reply. You have yet to prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt. The burden of proof lies with the accuser. I have another question, Jarek interrupts, and the small susurrus of conversations dies down. Jarek was none too happy about my trip as well. If I had to judge, he does not begrudge me the initiative but dislikes risky politics with a passion. The situation must have left him irritated. You obtained an advantage for us at a risk for yourself. Why did you not share this information with us before starting, and what did you get out of it personally? Direct and to the point as always. I did not share this information because my partner in this endeavor required secrecy, and for good reasons. With the prize of a dozen Fey, the temptation would have been too great to sabotage our work. I do not have to tell you that this many donors represents a strategic asset. The risks were simply unacceptable. Even with things going to plan, I was forced to evade patrols and run a Royal Navy blockade. It shows how much you trust our leadership, a rival lord declares. Constantine turns his gaze to the men, but I decide to disarm the conflict before it can occur. The secrecy was my partner's wish, not mine. As for what I gained, besides some powerful magical artifacts, I was also granted an excellent opportunity to guarantee our independence for the foreseeable future. Jarek does not react, yet a few pointed looks show that no one believes in a gesture of altruism on my part. Wardens are seldom witless, after all. You might remember that during the last conflict, Bertrand personally attempted to capture and punish me on several separate occasions. Recognition shows on many faces. Our enmity might have been a quirk or a footnote during the last conflict, but now I am a lady and the stakes are just as high. If Mask wins and the Accords are dissolved, some of you may retain your territories with some concessions. It will not be the same for me. Not only would I lose my seat of power, which for a devourer is abhorrent, I would also lose most of my means. A majority of my funds are tied up in local ventures, all investments I would be rendered unable to collect should I go into exile. If Bertrand's faction wins, I'll lose everything I have built for the past half a century. Our loss, for me, would be unthinkable. And you burnt bridges with Eneru, Safar added. Quite so. You realize now, ladies and gentlemen, why I have a vested interest in our success. We already warded off one attempt and will face at least another before the end of the century. The opportunity I was granted will cripple Bertrand for good. Can you tell us about this opportunity? I can do better, I will invite everyone to participate in the final phase once it starts, but under two conditions. I require an oath of secrecy, and one of obedience." Cries of consternation ring throughout the room. You cannot possibly imagine. Obedience? To one so young. With an opt-out, I finish. Those who join will be forced to silence, and free to leave the scheme if they do not like it, though they will be compelled not to oppose it in any way. The protests die down, though frowns show that they find the proposal less than enchanting. "You know, if that mysterious benefactor is your sire, you can inform us," Suarez offers. I shake my head lightly. "Full secrecy enforced by oath," I reply, thus letting those on the fringe suspect him, Semiramis, and who knows how many ancient monsters capable of such grand schemes. The prepared oaths might be comprehensive, but I would rather limit our numbers to true believers who will not spend every hour of every night trying to work around their binding words just so that they snack on a certain shameless rogue. If anyone gets their fangs into him, it shall be me. How do we know that this operation of yours does not endanger the Accords? I swear that it is my belief that this will help the Accords in the short and long term. You might be mistaken. And we will not know until I try. She is correct, Constantine continues seriously. A binding oath is the most one can request of a warden, and Ariane has already given one. We give each other the benefit of the doubt. I will grant you a few moments to consider your options, then we will move on. The speaker truly has my back despite his reticence. If he wanted to sabotage me, he would have asked for a recess and let those old schemers cook up some legal way to force my hand, or at least delay me to let me know of their displeasure. If we get to the trial vote now, the wardens should be too concerned about my next scheme to try to stop the past one. We do enjoy novelty. Their curiosity will protect me from legal retribution more surely than any convincing proof could. As expected, no one makes an argument, though I receive one last question. Will those who vote against you be allowed in your scheme? Of course not. I scoff, either you trust me or you do not. A few more grumbles and I am a free woman. A small yet hallowed committee sits in my fortress room, so busy that I had to borrow chairs from a neighboring Cadiz master. Lord Suarez stands for the Cadiz, while Lord Adrian represents the Roland and, to some extent, the traditionalist faction which I oppose. Jimena is here, of course, and so is Neminata. Jarek showed up without a word. To my surprise, Safar joined us. She raises an annoyed brow when I look at her. Those men and women reflect my journey to the Accords and to power. Lord Suarez raced after me in Savannah, a pursuit that ended with me swimming through its pure-soiled waters. In my mind, he represents the Cadiz, the first faction to ally with me purely for their own benefits. Jimena and Neminata are my first friends and the ones who helped me with no benefit to themselves. I helped Safar obtain her territory, then integrated her group as she helped me in return. The canny blonde was my first formal, political faction leader. As for Adrian, we worked together during the human civil war, then he attacked my land during my little night adventure because of the capture of his twin brother. He owes me a debt yet still nominally belongs to the traditional faction. In a way, Adrian is the opposition party in a government at war, opposed on minor issues but united during times of strife. Although their numbers are few, those lords and ladies represent the entirety of the Accords political spectrum and will no doubt report to their respective sides once they know my little secret. The oath will prevent them from giving out any details, so they will be limited to saying yes or no. I do not mind. Although their support would be welcome, I do not particularly need them anywhere except off my back. Adrian sits somewhat uncomfortably, the last person to join. I stand up and close, then ward the door. I also double-check that Constantine is not eavesdropping through the fortress defenses as I am sure he can, but find no signs of tampering. Satisfied, I return behind my desk and pass out the forms detailing the oath. All of the persons present swear with no signs of hesitation. It feels strange to be the heart of a conspiracy. Strange, yet exotic. I am sure you are all eager to know what this plan entails, so here it is. We are going to remove the Fey blood advantage from all factions. In order to do so, I am going to steal the Fey. My guests receive this declaration in consternated silence. I let them simmer for a second, then give them their second serving. All of them. At once. Is this a joke? Safar asks. No. We will open a portal to the Dead Sphere and set up a ritual site using a war-class golem core as well as a few other stones as portable magical sources. Then, the most high-ranking Fey couple under the leadership of a prince will use a royal authority ritual to summon every stranded member of their species to the dead world. They will then open a second portal directly to the closest fairy world and go through. The closest what? Jakik asks. Hold the thought. A royal couple, you say? Your partner has access to a Fey prince? Safar asks, stupefied. Oh, this is going to be so good. No. My partner is the Fey prince. Horror, awe, and stupefaction wore across the old ones present to my immense satisfaction. Is this how it feels to bring a machination to a perfect close? I understand Sanayad so much now, I would even laugh maniacally if I were not a mature and poised lady. I shall have to do so later in private. But, since when? I have been working with the Prince of Summer for the past 70 years, almost since I was reborn. The only persons not to guess are Niminata and Himena, who knew to some extent. They put on satisfied smiles while the others display powerful emotions. The most shocked of them all is Safar. She grabs her forehead between her hands, then, to my surprise, she laughs. Of course by the eye. It makes so much sense. Once her mirth calms down a bit, she meets my eyes with pleasure clear on her delicate features. You were not growing more erratic, you were merely adhering to your first allegiance, which was not us. Oh my, I had it wrong the entire time. Backwards, as it were. Oh, goodness me, what an amazing turn. Yes, I reply, suddenly a little put off by such a queer display. The way you can assist is by helping me clear the ritual area of mana hounds, of which there will be many before we can finish a magic containment circle. You are also welcome to take part in the final ritual and defend the ritual site from aggression, which there will be. How? Jarek asks. Did you not maintain secrecy? Yes, however this will be an event of tremendous reach. We live in a magical world now. Momentous occasions bring portents. The Amaretta. The seer bloodline, Safar whispers. Precisely, I reply with a nod. As an event that will shake Vampiric into its foundation, the liberation of the Fae must have been or will shortly be predicted by their progenitor. I have no doubt that either they will intervene or they will warn those who can. Which leads us to the obvious question, Adrian remarks. If the Amaretta do attempt to stop you, would that not make it a terrible idea? It will weaken us as a species, and we have already been exposed to one dangerous foreign entity, the skeleton mages. Who is to say that they will not return or that others will not take their places? Fey blood could carry us to victory in our most desperate hour. First, the skeleton mages will return, of that I am sure, but they illustrate a real problem. A few decades ago, portals were an anomaly. Now, the Dead Plains last city knows of our existence and no doubt plans on stealing Earth's life force. Our world grows increasingly bound to others, including that of the Fae. Already their powers have grown. Now, do you have any idea how powerful the Lycians are? Lycians? This is what they call themselves, while Fae is our term. The Lycians exist across a multitude of interlocked planes, gathering in many factions and many species. While they were all forced into a human appearance here by the world, it will fade in time and a determined invader could let their warriors keep their form. If the prince is to be believed, the Lycians' numbers are beyond reckoning. Untold billions populate their realms. They are a fractious and bickering lot, for now. But if they realize we enslaved them, and treated them as cattle for centuries, and believe me, they will find out sooner rather than later, we will face a foe we cannot possibly hope to prevail against. If, however, a faction frees and returns them, they will incur a debt we can capitalize on. The Lycians understand infighting and power struggles. We would just be yet another plane to them. And they would leave us in peace? Safar asks, disbelief clear in her voice. Of course not. we would just have a fighting chance against a scattered opposition. I see now why you kept this whole affair hidden. It would just be wiser not to poke the bear and hope they never find out about us. Or to obtain better guarantees. Or better yet, kill them all and hope the truth is never discovered. Goodness me, there is nothing worse than an idealist with power, Safar laments. My solution does not rely on unknown entities with unknown powers never finding out, so I believe it will do just fine, thank you very much. Before we move on, I will ask which one of you would like to remove themselves from the agreement? No one volunteers. I expect the Ancient Ones to consider their options before withdrawing their support, but sometimes, some of us react strongly to what we perceive as foolishness. It does not appear to be the case here. No one erupts in furious vociferations. Very well. One last thing before we begin, I continue. I place my hands on my lap and close my eyes. I need to. Oh, to hell with it. I will just speak my mind. Although the oaths are comprehensive, I hold no illusion that a particularly determined vampire could somehow find a way to sabotage this project, so I will state this clearly. If I ever discover that one of you, and I am not aiming this at anyone thus far, if one of you betrays me, they shall find out why and how I became the fourth Devourer. I will find them. I will kill them. Nothing will stop me, neither distance nor allies nor personal might. Think very carefully before you commit, because I am fully invested in this endeavor and will tolerate no duplicity. None, at all. Well, Safar replies with an amazed smile, now I am eager to meet the one who would cause such a strong reaction. I did not leave Europe to bow to Mask again, Ariane. You shall have my support, Adrian says. Spoken with honor, Jarekads, I respect that. You have my fists. Honor, purpose, and audacity. Akades can ask for nothing more. I will stand by your side, Suarez speaks with conviction. Thank you for inviting me for this little outing, Cupcake. You always bring the most delicious adventures, Namiets. I will always be there for you, sister, Jimena says. Then we can depart for my territory whenever you wish, I say. Before I can stand up, Safar picks the service bell and rings it. A knock on the door replies. Come in. Constantine steps into the room and stares at me, but it is at Safar that his question is aimed. So? I am convinced and conscripted. Very well. Show me that oath. Let us get this over with. A long time ago, Semiramis came to the Illinois wilderness to complete a ritual. At the time, I wondered why she would pick such a desolate and random locale to conduct one of the greatest feats of magic this world has ever known. Only now do we realize that the weave of the world is particularly porous here, and that the cause for this thin barrier stems from the dead world. I hope it was not caused by some horrifying rift into reality or some similar concerns. I turn to the quickly growing fortress being built by hired workers under the vigilant gaze of my most faithful followers. Lycaeans and vampires walk the ground, looking at each other with suspicion for the former, and longing for the latter. Our otherworldly guests still wear human shapes, but the exoticism they exude makes them unmistakably alien to those of us in the know. I stop when I discover Sanayat casually leaning against an oak as Safar leans forward with naked curiosity. You were Simon Need all along? One of my more amusing achievements, yes. Ah, Purpot, you have come. The first portal is ready for activation. I will need a few minutes to put on my armor. Anything of note? Surveyor will come with you for the initial measurements. Do return if you are assaulted by a whale-sized burrowing worm or anything similar. We can always consider another site. If we do find something of the sort, Neminata will do her very best to kill it. Then I wish you a good hunt. Remember, this is a scouting mission, nothing more. Yes, yes. I roll my eyes. I soon find myself near a ritual spot, one that is eerily similar to the one I opened during the skeleton invasion, though Surveyor naturally improved it. Melusan, the Blue Court Princess, and I pierce the veil easily. A wound in the world reveals the same drab desert I am used to, as well as forms like giant, jagged dark spikes jutting from the ground in the distance. Time to explore. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we? Chapter 177. The exploratory group walks into the dead world with care but without worry. All of us working together would be enough to topple a small nation, so I am not overly concerned, but it is the truth that our destination hosts strange creatures and that we had fatalities fighting off only a portion of the last city's skeleton mages. We need to keep our eyes open. The landscape before us is both familiar and strange. The same bland, colorless desert of dust extends to equally bland mountains on the horizon. The air smells of little except brine, the explanation of which can be seen in shallow pools far to our right. The main point of interest stands around us, however. We have landed in a small depression surrounded on all sides by black monoliths jutting up for dozens of yards before retracting inward, their ends tapering into cracked spikes like the ribs of a fallen titan. A quick look reveals the faded remains of unknown glyphs. We have barely started to fan out when Jimena calls out. "HM, you may all want to see this." The Cadiz lady points at the back of the portal. At the edge of the circle, we find a skull. Or rather, the top of one, its sockets quarter filled with sands. The two most striking details are its surface, as it seems to be plated with gold or some similar metal, and its size. By the Watcher, the entire skeleton must be 13 yards tall, I hazard. Probably closer to 11 if you must use imperial units, Constantine replies pompously. The local natives are more squat than a regular human. Really? I ask. Yes. The scientific community even calls them Homo alien, as they believe them to be an entirely new hominid species. Would you two please save the scholarly debate for later? Jarek interrupts. He goes for the skull and we follow. I would rather find out if it represents a danger sooner rather than later, especially because mana hounds will not fail to perceive our intrusion if there are any around. On cue, Adrian strides to the edge of the clearing for a better look while Safar takes position behind us and next to Nami, the only master present. The seven of us eventually form a half-circle around our findings when it becomes clear that we are not in immediate danger. The skull is just that, a skull. I feel no aura from it. The surface intrigues me, however, as the metal plating shows fine lines engraved with what must have been painstaking patience. Perhaps the metal can be harvested. It could be valuable, Safar says. I would be interested in examining the SPELLWORK first. This was clearly designed by magic users, Constantine replies reproachfully. I understand him. What do we care about a pile of gold when we are already wealthy? This new finding could revolutionize our understanding of magic, and possibly not in a way that would destroy the world. Truly, we might have found ourselves an unexpected treasure. Am I the only one who is concerned that we have faced skeleton mages and this is a giant skeleton? And possibly a mage? Adrian asks. It has not moved so far. Jimena says, unsure. Only one way to find out, Jarek declares. He takes a step forward. His armored gauntlet soul weapons materialize on his fists. Jarek? I scream. Constantine protests vehemently as well, undoubtedly out of fear the markings might get damaged. Nevertheless, Jarek punches down. The skull shakes under the jab. Cracks expand over its surface, but not very far, merely the size of a large plate perhaps. I have seen Jarek pulverize rocks with that amount of power. The thing is quite durable. What are you doing? I hiss. Remember your oath. I have not approved of attacking it. You have not forbidden it either. It does seem dead. I open my mouth to argue that there is a difference between proactive thinking and recklessness, but I am interrupted by an earthquake. A very small, very localized earthquake. I shift to the side when ribs, actual ones plated in metal, breach the dusty earth. We all scatter except for Jarek, who hammers them with limited results. A patella pierces next, followed by the whole leg. The Watcher, damn it, eek, I say. At least we got the first hit in. What are you all waiting for? We all attack at once. Just as we expected, The creature proves incredibly resilient. Even repeated hits do little but open tiny crevices in its reflective surface. Jarek's deafening blows prove the most effective at damaging it. I decide not to waste any more time. Magna Arca. No matter the circumstances, letting go will always feel amazing. The roots explode from the earth normally, wrapping around the skeleton's leg and making it stumble. Constantine's chains grab the other leg while another of Jarek's fast series of strikes pushes it back, on its, well, pelvis. Despite this, the creature rises again until it towers above us. What monstrous strength, Constantine remarks. Should we focus on its right leg? I asked no one in particular. I already scratched it pretty well. You will notice that it is indeed 11 yards tall. Not now, speaker. The massive skeleton does something and the world is drawn in. But nothing happens to us. The same cannot be said about our equipment, however. I feel Aurora's cold radiance diminish. The skeleton bends forward and reaches for Sapphire, who dodges with a curse. It is quite fast for a construct yet still pales in comparison to us. Despite that, our inability to hurt it means a stalemate. Uncaring for the growing network of rifts marring its surface, the giant swipes at Sapphire, this time much faster. She still jumps over the blow. Then, the creature's fingertips grow transparent as if clad in ghostly talons. It reaches down for a lost piece of metal on the ground. I recognize one of Sapphire's side weapons, a dagger of exquisite make. It disintegrates. It's starving. It will feed on our magical items. I warn everyone. Constantine already guessed it and forfeited his spells in favor of blows from his chain-like soul weapon. As for Sapphire, the destruction of her blade sends her in a fury. This was a gift from. How dare you, you overgrown anatomical display? She screams incoherently and attacks with utter savagery. I find it a little adorable, but cannot let myself be distracted too much. There are too many powerful fighters in a crowded space. We cannot use all of our strength. I decide to focus my effort on the same side Jarek and Constantine are attacking with my roots and Rosa's shredding edge. Despite the improvised nature of our team and the lack of room, we work together rather well. Magna Arca. Adrian drags Sapphire out of the way of the thing's attacks by jumping at her from her own shadow. The creature appears to be at full speed now, and I assess that its claws destroy magic on contact. I would complain if I were not cheating in a similar fashion. Finally, with our combined attacks focusing on its right leg, the wobbly tibia fractures to show actual bone and the fossilized marrow underneath. We jump on the weakness like wolves on a wounded stag. The creature kicks, which we avoid with ease. It opens wide its toothy maw. The world shakes. Sand at my feet dance in strange patterns while my ears burn with a searing pain. I lose my sense of balance. My vision turns red. Pure instinct makes me raise more thorns to block a wide sweep from the skeleton. It tears off at least 5 of the trunk-sized offshoots. That thing is impossibly strong. Around me, the others pick themselves up. They are all bleeding from their ears. A pop and an itchy sensation let me know that I am already healed. Can we ward against screams, somehow? I ask, attacking the leg again. What? Sapphire answers. No magic will work against this thing, it will just consume it, Constantine replies soberly. The Aurora picks this moment to flicker. That thing is killing our gear. It is of no use anyway, Jarek replies, Magna Arca. Par fills him as he launches himself at the beast. He lands squarely on its rib cage and sends it crashing on the ground. Remove them. They will not save you if you get hit. Go. He is right. One glancing blow from those talons and the armor will simply be gone, as well as whatever part of us it touches. It serves no purpose. I race away with the others except Jarek and Nami. The shameless woman simply tears off her light armor and sends it flying far in the distance. She now fights in the state of nature, smiling all the way. Ah well. Wait, the portal is closed? I exclaim. I told them to close it for 10 minutes. Security protocol in case we meet more than mana hounds, remember? Adrian retorts reproachfully. Ah, right. I insisted on it too. I had not seen you do it. All of you were obsessed with hitting that thing, you battle maniacs. Nobody cares about the plan, ever, he grumbles. The Serpas? We run at full speed for a few seconds until the depression is far behind us and the Aurora's power picks back up. A signal, and we all drop our belongings where they are, leaving only the under armor and our sole weapons. I end up in a gambeson with, and may my papa forgive me, trousers. Ariane, you think this creature is one of the skeleton mages? Jimena suddenly asks. Undoubtedly, but it is obviously quite mad. Perhaps it starved? Would you say it participated in the destruction of this world? I am certain of it. Me too. Jimena accelerates and points her sinuous sword at the large skeleton. I judge you guilty. Magna Arca. Vast wings of purple light grow from her shoulders and she positively flies at the creature's head. Her power shifts the balance of the local place. I can feel it. In the thin fabric of this world where reality was pierced before, our combined essence calls it. It draws itself forward across unimaginable distance. On the horizon, the eye of the Watcher opens. Its black-slitted pupil narrows and lands on us. The time has come to leave a good impression. Our assault redoubles and one last hook from Jarek cracks the bone. The skeleton tilts to the side and falls once more. This time, it will not rise again. The foot is severed. It opens its mouth and screams again. I do not even bother to block my ears, fully expecting the blaring sound to send me to the ground, bleeding, except it does not. A pure, clear note impossibly blocks it in. Nami laughs, and laughs. Confused, the maddened creature screams again and again. Nami twirls her spear then sings. The world takes a purple shade. She starts to dance. A ghostly music covers the monster's impotent noise with drums and flutes. Nami sings still, then she pauses and looks at me. Pants, cupcake? How scandalous. You are one to talk. But Nami does not care. She keeps dancing with the beat and I cannot stop myself from joining her as her eyes turn purple and feline as well. Magna Arca. The fight becomes a dance. We strike with a tune and dodge with graceful steps. Our attacks beat a staccato on the beleaguered monster. I sway my hips suggestively. Is this really necessary? I complain. Just relax, treacle pie, go with the flow. It takes a long time for us to detach the skull from its neck, but with its yells silenced and its patterns known, the skeleton no longer stand a chance. Nami's strange power forces me to be more predictable, yet at the same it enhances our coordination. Our range means that I can cover Jarek while Constantine covers Adrian. Nami forms a deadly trio with Safar and Jimena, their attacks concentrated on a single vertebra. Going with the flow proves extremely easy, while even thinking of resisting it hampers my movement. A vexing yet interesting development. Finally, the Titan collapses into true death this time, and we are left waiting to see if it will explode or some equally distasteful last gesture of spite. Fortunately, no such thing happens. We find ourselves in the possession of the largest pile of metal-plated bones in history. I jump on Nami. Congratulations on your ascension. All of us greet the latest vampire to join our hallowed ranks, though she merely hums and smiles. Then, without warning, she grabs Jarek and Safar before aiming for the slowly reopening portal. Ah! She is going to celebrate, Constantine remarks. I glare at him. A bit crass. Do not look at me that way, Ariane. You should know that I do not enjoy intimacy of any sort. Do not flatter yourself. The only intimacy you will get from me is when you shove that sword somewhere tender. Yes, I know, Constantine replies with a look of supreme boredom. If you really want the throne, I might give it to you. I freeze at that and look at the speaker, confused. You would? Do you have any idea how much effort I spend every night regulating petty conflicts and signing things so that we remain the Accords and not some squabbling confederation of bloodthirsty old monsters? No one, not even I, have the power to put the likes of Jarek or even you in line. It would take the likes of your sire and nobody would benefit, but I digress. Spend a week shadowing me and we will see if you truly have the stomach for it. You know enough by now that it should benefit you. If nothing else, you have my curiosity. Right. In any case, we should recover our gear quickly. Oh. Constantine finally notices the approaching horde of mana hounds backed by their monstrous broodmothers and swarms of flying drones. The land is not quite purple, but it certainly is more colorful than it used to be. We quickly put on our armor and recover our weapons. Thankfully, whatever damage the creature did does not appear to be permanent. Did those three just leave us all the work so they could engage in coitus? The speaker complains. Well, yes. To be fair, Nami's situation is a once-in-a-second-lifetime experience and we would have refused anyway. I do not do groups. Constantine blinks and turns to Adrian, as if seeking confirmation that this was normal. The Roland Lord misunderstands his meaning. I do not mix combat and pleasure, he explains. Ain't has all of my heart, Jimena says in turn. Oh, reinforcements. I exclaim to lift the decidedly awkward direction this conversation has followed. Said reinforcement are the Illinois vampires, Urchin, John, Melusan, and Phineas. The fire mage seems protective of the fallen knight, which I can understand since he was still far from deadly when we escaped Europe together. Did you not have more courtiers? I asked the prickly redhead. They are not ready, you bull-headed barbarian. I was not ready when I escaped your clutches. Those sound like excuses to me. We cannot all improve our strength by traveling the land and eating its people, you juice-brained slurper. Is it jealousy I hear from my lesser, Master Melusan? Yes, enjoy being a lady through power because it would never have been by your manners. Speaking of dignity, Isaac of the Rosenthal has sent a package for you. Oh. John fetches it. At first, it looks like a sealed sarcophagus and quite heavy to boot, but as soon as I read the message attached to it, I know I was mistaken. My dear Ariane. As you expected, I cannot assist you since the Rosenthal enforce a strict neutrality policy. We cannot involve ourselves in matters that involve two or more factions, as your current project does. Nevertheless, nothing says that I cannot hurry along the secure transfer of some mail orders, so to speak. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavor. Yours sincerely, Isaac. Curious. The envelope contains another letter, this one in Loth's familiar script. Lass. I finally refined and finished our little project. Gatling might be a smart lad, but I'm an efficient one. The handle and firing mechanisms are isolated against temperature changes. I added silver bullets for your immediate enjoyment. Have fun. Loth. Oh yes. The hound cleanup takes all of 2 hours but is otherwise uneventful. Regular castings lure the attention of the beasts away from the portal. Constantine also successfully altered his chains so they would not snap immediately under the anti-magic effect of the disgusting creatures. I believe his inability to act against the skeleton must have frustrated him, because the ensuing rampage is quite spectacular. Loth's weapon turns out to be a portable machine gun with a shortened muzzle and a higher rate of fire. It takes me a bit of effort to get used to the weight, and also to realize that I need a small moment to dig my feet in so I can compensate for its tremendous recoil. I wonder if I could use a hydraulic shock absorber in a portable weapon, but it will have to be a consideration for later. After a quick test, I am forced to switch to Rose because of the lack of ammunition. It was fun while it lasted. With the land under our control, we spent some time clearing the corpses, gathering them and a mount at distance later which I proposed to set on fire. Unfortunately, My proposal is refused on account of the inevitable plume of smoke it would create in this otherwise cloudless land. We are half a planet away from the last city, Savea explains. The gate spells link loci that are only related to true distances, not bound. What she means to say is that the distance between two portals on Earth and the same two portals here would be different, but not so much that it would make portal-based movement very attractive, Sinead explains. So we should have no interference from the last city, I reply. There is no evidence that they are, in fact, the last city. That was my actual point, Savea continues. The present skeleton proves that this world is rife with old dangers and ancient traps. We must remain cautious. Very well. A large number of mages come through the gate, including Ricardo, the man I saved in Alexandria, and have forgotten since then. It feels strange to see so many old faces, and I am reminded that our current task is the result of years of efforts and resource gathering from everyone involved. When I told my allies I had been part of the conspiracy for 70 years, it was an approximation. I was more a willing and constant ally ready to provide support whenever needed, but otherwise busy pursuing my own interests. Only now do I realize the extent of efforts invested in the liberation when dozens of Fae join our encampment as it transforms into a starfort. They immediately get to work casting, enchanting, and reinforcing our defenses under the watchful yet respectful gaze of the Accords and our human guards. Our numbers swell to hundreds, forcing me to increase the delivery of food and other necessities. Although I am concerned about operational security, there is little I can do beyond increasing patrols and traps. Fortunately, the Fae rise to the occasion once more and I successfully intercept a masked spy before she can find out more about our project. This is not especially alarming, Constantine says as we are gathered inside of the Starfort one evening. Few factions would fail to identify that we are working on a major project, but so far they must not know what or they would have tried to intervene. Your warning about the amreading is concerning, however. Although we are moving at great speed, I am concerned that we may be found out too soon. Savea lifts a dainty hand to speak. Her elfin features show more confidence since Constantine has taken a serious interest in her and her research. Honestly, I would be concerned if I were Sinead, intimacy or not, but the Lycaeans are much less exclusive than we are. The manipulation of fate is more the domain of my father. However, if I would hazard a guess, I would say that the trigger will be the start of the ritual, which will take 3 days to complete. My understanding is that our foes could reach us before we are done. It would cost them many resources and probably leave them with no avenue of retreat, but perhaps, yes, Safar confirms. If that is the case, we can delay the trigger until our defenses are complete. Will you call upon your allies? Adrian asks. I shake my head. If we face any serious opposition, it will be vampires and for one night only. I see no other way for them to react. Any mage or werewolf deployed to face a host of lords and ladies at night will only be wasted. The others agree with me, and our work continues. Over the month of March 1871, we finish the Starfort around the permanent portal. The loyal workers are returned to Marquette and the other surrounding villages they came from with the expectation that informers will get at them. Fortunately, none of the mortals present saw the portal open or, indeed, recognize the Lycaeans for what they were, since their existence has always been kept a secret. We begin working on the necessary elements of the rituals, firstly by deploying a magic blocking seal. Savea explains its purpose while we use basic spells to flatten the ground around the ribcage-like structure. The dead world drinks magic like starving land drinks rain. I suspect it might live again, but not easily, and especially not with the power we possess here. Our first order of business is to keep the spent energy inside. It will serve a double purpose by also protecting us from detection and questing hounds. Will the ribcage not affect us? I ask as I work. I examined the mark and believe that it was used to create one of those skeleton mages you speak of, and that we call Lycaeans. Wait. You have seen this process before? Savea nods. It is an inefficient technique that mortal species can resort to if they wish to fend off the end of their natural lifespan. The spells I know require objects of great vitality, but the people here use the essence of their own planets. Such short-sightedness can unfortunately be found regularly among the more ambitious species. In any case, the ritual dug a deep wound in the fabric of reality which will serve our purpose well. The rib cages are inert now, their purpose fulfilled. I suppose it could be used as a focus in certain rituals, but it would be used for what it represents and not as an active ingredient. We are safe. Well, she is the expert. Once the ground is flattened, Savea and a few others harden it until it has the resistance and consistency of stone, then trace an intricate network of glyphs in a large circular band around what I suspect will be the heart of the ritual. They use strange tools that emit a blue flame to dig. Physically imposing Lycaeans then fill the grooves with an alloy molten in an engraved furnace that I suspect might be electrum. I dare not think how many rich widows Sine had seduced out of their savings to achieve this level of financial liquidity. Curious, I asked him when we take a break. We have installed a massive tent at the edge of the working place with sentries all around. Guarding the unmoving dust desert has to be one of the most boring tasks in existence. One might as well watch wallpaper dry. So, how many banks have you robbed to afford that much electrum? Many, but not the way you think. I took some loans. You intend to dodge repaying those by escaping to a new dimension? I gasp. You have to admire the elegance of the solution. Do not be afraid, I mostly scam banks tightly linked to the Rosenthal and other vampire organizations. You have defrauded vampires. 'Tis only fair, he replies with a shrug. Our liquidity for their liquidity, thank you. I hear an edge under the joke but do not remark on it. Sinead is nervous. I can feel it in the most minute variations of his colorful aura, in the way he has stopped lounging. The Prince of Summer is afraid. Too much hangs in the balance. Uncharacteristically, I grab his shoulder and massage it a little bit in what must be a brazen display. I have not been tactile, not since I was changed. Vampires hate being touched. Any unsolicited stimulus tends to trigger extreme responses while we rely much more on our sense of smell. Sinead feels how much it cost for me to bear myself emotionally, somehow. His smile softens until it feels genuine to my less sophisticated social perception. His hand squeezes mine once, softly. He is quite warm and smells of the sun on fresh linen. Gah, I wish I fancied him less. Sinead sighs deeply. Tension leaves his dancer's frame. When he looks at me, the intensity of his gaze reveals that this will be one of his few serious moments. You have helped me so much, Ariane. This liberation, this return home, it means more than you could possibly imagine. We had no hope at all, but you gave us some. You freed me. You freed Savannah. You found us Ricardo and saved us years of research. We are building a fragile edifice made of 100 machinations, and much of it rested on your shoulders, and you have never failed us. You cannot possibly imagine the impact your actions will have. And do not pretend that you did it out of self-interest. We both know that the debt I incurred cannot be repaid with all the gold of your world. Freedom, Ariane, is priceless. If we achieve success, I promise to make sure that your altruism is rewarded. The spheres know you will need some help. And I will never forget what you did. Well, I retort, suddenly embarrassed, I think freedom is priceless too. Well done, Ariane, very smooth. 80 years alive and that is all you come up with. Truly, what is left unspoken weighs heavily on my mind. Sinead and I have made no real secret of our mutual attraction, merely skirting the issue since we could not even kiss without me feeling an overwhelming urge to kill him. I would not accept to be bound just to enjoy intimacy either, never again, not even with someone I trust. We are at an impasse. And he is leaving, possibly forever. Perhaps there will be a time when our worlds finally align, but I know that we will have met our end before that one way or another. There is an unnegligible chance that the earth he finds will be under the thumb of Nirari, meaning that I will be dead. It all feels so far away. There could be centuries, millennia before we could meet again. We do not grow old, but we grow tired. I know some have fallen into slumber. It could happen to me too. Despite all of this, we have not broached the subject, and I dare not address it lest we are distracted from the more immediate matter. This is the end game for the Fae. Soon, the vampire world will realize that they do not just face serious opposition from the species, they also gathered allies and are capable of freeing their kin. We only get one opportunity to succeed before many doors close to us. I cannot lose sight of the goal, no matter how meaningful his absence would be. With the first circle finished, work continues unabated. Many of the vampires, including myself, spent daylight hours in the dead world rather than the confines of the Starfort, with no negative side effects beyond the vague impression that those are poor hunting grounds. The lack of background life would render us insane in short order if we were isolated, but it is, for now, compensated by the strange impression of being out under the sun. The local pale light shyly piercing through the eternal cloud cover does not trigger any of our fears in a curious phenomenon none of us can quite explain. Regardless, I would not want to live here. As the hour draws closer, I spend more and more time imagining the world beyond the portal. In retrospect, this should have raised an obvious question, but it is John who asks it. Will you go through the portal, Miss R.E.? The portal? To the Lycian worlds? Yes. If you go, he will not come after you. I will be able to live free of Nirari until I die, or until he annoys the Lycian king and loses his life in the process. You are right, of course, but I cannot. Earth is still my world. Perhaps, one day, I may leave it, but not while it teeters on the edge of the abyss. I would never be able to forget the ongoing conflict. It would weigh me too heavily. Besides, would everyone I care about leave with me? I would, John replies, but Jimena would not. And you would not leave her to die. Indeed not. John nods and, for him, this concludes the discussion. His trust and certitude ground me. The middle of March brings us more news. A sudden war triggered between France and Prussia ended in the quick and total destruction of the French army and the creation of the German Empire. Much to the general surprise, we learn that vampires from the middle faction, the Brotherhood, have been granted titles of nobility while mages are hired in legal positions. As for France, a grassroots movement installs a socialist regime in Paris while the Republican government in Versailles is attempting to negotiate, the cause of their sudden tolerance being their lack of trust in the army. Many free spellcasters have joined the ranks of those they call the communards. For the first time in history, magic has made an open impact on the side of the leaders. The second surprise comes from Mask's own defeat. Despite striking the first blow, a sudden and temporary alliance between Anaru and the Brotherhood, as well as the absence of some of their best fighters, have left Bertrand and his tactician Orpheus completely overwhelmed. We fail to learn much on the exact course of the conflict, only that Mask is currently in disarray. I fear their reversal of fortune might lead them to desperate measures concerning the incoming war. The stakes are now even greater. The Fae finished the construct on the 17th, right on schedule. We'll stand witness to a spellwork as large as 3 tennis courts engraved on petrified earth with molten electrum. It is a sublime work of arcane knowledge and craftsmanship. Even Constantine is impressed by the displayed precision and dedication. The secondary stones are charged. The main stone is at full power. The only thing left is to place the focus and start, but the Lycians request a break to recover. One I grant, and that we spend exploring and hunting. 2 days later, Sinead gathers all of us. Ranks of loyal mages of the Red Cabal and Fae of all origins stand shoulder to shoulder with us. On top of the previous lords, we are also joined by Lord Suarez of the Cadiz for the defense, Adrian's twin Adam, and a slave, Jarek II. The number of warlords and ladies present eclipses all but the most determined war parties. Despite our presence, the Prince of Summer shows no trace of fear when he faces us, the men and women who will bring his people home. Welcome, everyone, to the second most important magical event of this century. He starts in English. A few of us smile. Everyone who matters knows that Semiramis works at the foundation for what we will soon attempt. This tent behind me doesn't look like much, yet now it is the headquarters of the most culturally and ethnically diverse group of beings your planet has ever known. We have mundane humans, mages, and vampires. We have fae from the diminutive eye hunters of the Court of Wings and Keyholes to the giants of the Court of Stones. 100 courts from dozens of worlds have lost themselves here and have or will join our numbers. Why, we are only missing the werewolves. I could always use a snack, a slave grumbles, causing a few nervous laughs. And yet, we are still working together towards a singular purpose, but we have a flaw, a fatal flaw that could cause our demise in our hour of need. Sinead leans forward, stealing our attention with a conspiratorial wink. We are here for different reasons. We have not aligned. He stands back up and paces before us. Now I know that oaths bind all of us, not just you my fellow Lycians, but also those who could have been our jailers. But oaths can only force us to comply. It is not obligation that will push us to our limits, that will burn away the debris of our indecision until we fight, reborn in our finest hour. Oh no. We will need more than this to triumph, because at the end of the day we are not evacuating, we are not depriving enemies of their magical juice. We are doing nothing short but achieving the most daring, the most audacious breakout in the history of this world and beyond. We are stealing an entire species. What bards will not envy us this moment? What seeker of adventure will look us in the eye and claim they would not have wished to be here? I think Aminata would spontaneously burst if she could. Sinead turns and spreads his hand like an entertainer. Panache, ladies and gentlemen. Panache will bind us in that noble endeavor. There are no stories like the one we write now, no achievements like the one we shall claim, and it is you, all of you, who are the actors and architects of this masterful play. So stand straight and laugh, channel the powers of the arcane with mirth in your breasts, face your enemies with a smile on your lips, because when this is done, no matter what, we will be legends. The ritual starts tomorrow and will culminate on the night of the spring equinox, following which we will be free or dead. May the fates smile upon us all. Dismissed. Chapter 178. Power feeds into the construct from 4 cardinal points. Sinead and Sivea stand in the innermost circle where they will stay for 3 days until the ritual is complete, hands linked in symbolic union. Other fae and powerful mages like Ollie line the middle circle. We will be able to come and go thanks to the ritual's extraordinary flexibility, so long as enough people remain to assist at any point. From behind Sinead, the first stone burns the yellow gold of August noon. Crimson red bleeds from the second one, clockwise, while the stone behind Sivea radiates a polar blue. The last one pulses green and verdant like a dewy melon. Between the encircled arms of the royal couple, the last and largest shines a terrible white so intense it casts shadows behind the outpost tent. The last parts of the construct are the chalice at the edge behind the autumn stone, and an arched gate behind the spring one, currently empty. To goodbyes and new beginnings, I suppose. I will take part in the ritual as the mage closest to the winter gate due to my new affinity. The fae to my left and right taste of darkness and cold, but not yet the ravenous claws of winter itself. I pride myself in my raw power if not in my control, yet the energies deployed here surpass all but Semiramis ritual, and we are just getting started. Slowly, the outer circle's electrum turns an intense silver, then the power slowly fills the delicate engravings going inward. When it reaches me, I feel it pull and allow my aura to feed into the ritual, contributing to it yet also directing the energies that grant them meaning. One by one, the others join me until the last inner circle ignites in turn and we are set, or that is what I believe. Instead, the power keeps increasing. If the spell were to destabilize now, the resulting explosion could be seen from the horizon, but it will not. Sivea's weave is a thing of beauty, an exquisite system built with fail-safes and redundancy to satisfy the most paranoid of mages. It gorges on our combined power and the energy stored in the stones until the combined auras give me a sense of vertigo. Only after the inner circle glows incandescent does the royal couple speak in Lycian. Even though it is the language of adults, the meaning is so clear that I have no difficulty following it. We call upon you, they say, we summon you here. Wanderers, return to us and find your path. Warriors, return to challenge us if you dare. Prisoners, return to find your freedom. We call upon you. Return to us, return to us. Even I feel a tug, the power of which would steal my breath if I had one. The call they make is so compelling and so strong that even I, an outsider, feel its pull to the bottom of my essence. Sinead and Sevilla draw on the bonds of kinship and shared legacy, but also their shared suffering and their longing for acceptance as who they are. The sky above the inner circle changes, to images manifesting almost too fast to see. Golden halls filled with lifelike statues alternate with vertiginous spires over a frigid lake, then gloomy caves lit by strange mushrooms where dwellers sleep forever. A forest of nets and webs where small winged beings flutter gives way to fiery cliffs dripping molten rocks, thick and bubbling. A still forest. A lush jungle made of dancing, singing plants. A monumental tree. A palace bathed by moonlight. The colors swirl in an ethereal mirage until it merges into an ocean of possibilities and landscapes of the mind, the true soul of the face spheres. Return to us. Now. A woman appears in the air with a loud pop and falls with a yelp. She is dressed in a strict brown dress, but her matronly traits shift as I watch. Her nose grows very long and pointy and her chin expands, square and stubborn. Her entire eyes shift to a warm brown. She stands up with a huff and walks out with dignity towards the outer circle where she stands, aligned with the spring stone. Another pop. A child like Lycian falls on his butt with a complaint, but he soon walks behind the autumn gem. A tall, powerfully built woman appears and almost collapses, but she grits her teeth and goes to stand behind Summer. A shadowy fellow in a shift bites back a sob then crawls behind me. Blood drips from thin air into the chalice. I feel giddy. By the Watcher, this was the first prisoner. We are doing it. We are stealing the Lycians. More and more join us, in all shapes and forms. Most of them appear to be in proper shape with few exceptions, and I assume that those are the most geographically close and thus not the result of centuries of systematic hunting. They appear with regularity, maybe one every 3 minutes or so, yet the ritual never falters despite its expenditure. Instead, it grows in power with every new addition. The summoned Fae flock around the circle in an eclectic mix of features and clothes, of moods as well. I recognize a winter fellow, his teeth still stained with fresh blood, and he waves a bone club at Sinead with a promise of violence. Nevertheless, he, too, joins the circle. We are a court, I realize. This is the first and hopefully last gathering of the Earth Court. The Court of Exiles. As soon as the thought crosses my mind, the winter Fae by my side smiles and gives me a crazed glare of agreement. Yes. The Court of Exiles. It will do, for now. The power increases yet again until it grows absolutely overwhelming. The Lycians will answer. Nothing, no chain or enchantments will hold them back. The summoning may be slow, but it is the slowness of the changing of season, no less inevitable for its tectonic pace. At some point, some of the mages and Fae switch position between circles to rest and recover in the adjoining tent. I also give way to the winter Fae as dawn approaches, and when I walk out, the dizzying switch that comes with leaving the spell's embrace makes me lose my footing. Suddenly, the delicious scent of potent essence replaces my serenity with a dull ache. I stand in the richest hunting environment I have ever been in. The number of Fae present is close to 200, and many more will join us before this is over. I also realize that many of the Lycians were never prisoners of the vampires. Of course, we control only a fraction of mankind's domain, and it makes sense that the lost Fae would appear in random places when they first fall through. I wonder if we lost some to the seas, or to the unforgiving temperatures of the poles. Bah, the dawn is robbing me of my focus even on this side of the gate. I decide to return to our Earth starfort and fall to slumber in my sarcophagus. I wake up in the early afternoon, excited and worried. A quick check with sentries confirms what my instincts and advertisement tells me: nothing untoward's happened on my land while I slept. I wash and dress in the gambescent I wear under my armor anyway. I quickly walk into the dead world to find that the ritual is still on course, but that the main tent has been joined by a smattering of smaller ones. Lycaeans are resting and in some cases engaging in coitus within their confines. Smoke and the smell of food come in wafts from a central pavilion. Constantine hails me from a corner where he holds council with Lycaeans I have never seen. "Ah, Ariane, you're here," he says in English. "Those are Turnias in secluded black sand beach." The speaker waves at a man who shares Severe's elfin traits, and a woman with thin scales seemingly drawn on her skin. They will manage the encampment while the ritual is in progress. You can rely on them if there are any issues, he explains in English. "There were issues?" I ask. "Court of Shadows and Court of Stones have old feuds," the woman whispers with a sing-song tone in childlike Ian. "Old enmities should be on hold," the man answers in chiding English, "but one can never be too careful. I have experience as a master of ceremonies. I am aware of conflicts both current and past." He sighs. "Relatively current, in any case. I am also aware of debts," he finishes, meeting my gaze. "You have our thanks. Will you join the circle again?" "I prefer to wait until nightfall, unless my presence is required. We have enough representatives for all sides now. Perhaps you should save your strength." "I agree," Constantine continues. "Melusin used a beacon to confirm what I thought. The signature of the spell can be felt by mages, even those who are not fully trained." "How far?" I ask, though I doubt he knows. "Everywhere, Ariane. The entire planet knows that we are doing something. The Ameradisiers know exactly what we have been up to for at least a day now. Here is to hope they will not have the time to react. Regarding that, I forgot to mention but Mask declared war on us. Ambassador Madrigal delivered the scroll yesterday to the Boston fortress. Wilhelm just notified me by spell. Good, we will not have to parley if they deign to visit." "Are you going to make a quip about Southern hospitality?" "Oh, hush," I tell the speaker. We fall silent and pretend very hard that the ritual does not occupy our mind. Vampires come and go under the wary gaze of the gathered Lycaeans. The freshly released captives in particular appear leery of us. Our gathering soon turns into a unique mix of nervous excitement and impatient wait, reminding me of Christmas Eve as a child. I find myself inspecting my nails while, a few paces away, history writes itself. Soon enough, night falls. All the vampires breathe deeply at the same time. Urchin smoothly transitions from juggling coins to juggling knives under the amused gaze of some of our guests. Meanwhile, the tent gathering has grown to a festival. Music and dances fill the air for the first time in what must be forever in the dead world. Wine flows, and the cooks work overtime to sate those who catch a rest between casting sessions. In the innermost circle, Severe and Sinead have almost disappeared from view under the torrentious flow of combined auras. I only catch flickers of their intertwined arms and the central stone overhead. Their indomitable will still calls more of their kin, and still more heed their call. Unfortunately, my excitement gives way to concern, then to dread. The Lycaeans still work towards their freedom and the spell shows no signs of being destabilized. No, the cause of my worries must be something else, but what? I close my eyes and realize that the Dver essence in me warns me of something. It should not be possible, and yet. No, my instincts have never failed me. I rush to Constantine and signal. "We have incoming hostiles." "Now?" he calmly asks. "Now. Gather everyone around the chalice." A quick surge of my aura and the vampires join us. It takes a few more seconds to wait for those who were standing vigil earthside, but eventually we all form a circle around the chalice. Even now, the enticing fragrance of Fey blood lures us. The Fey keep a respectful distance. Ariane, would you like a word? Constantine offers. Right. I do not know how, but vampires are coming and they will be here soon. My instincts tell me they are intruders. My dear accomplices in crime, I formally invite you to the greatest hunt that can ever be, that of our kin. Ladies and gentlemen, a toast. John distributes tiny golden goblets. In turn, each of us approaches the chalice to harvest a tiny amount of mixed essence. I can taste the tension as everyone wants to drink it dry, and damn the others. John stoically retrieves his own after I confirm he is allowed. Urchin falters and stumbles, but with a supreme effort of will, he manages to return to his position without indulging. I nod in open appreciation, congratulating him before the lords for his restraint. Soon enough, we are all gathered. Melusan is the only master while Urchin and John, the only courtiers. The two of them will remain behind while Melusan's powerful magic can still make her useful. I raise my glass and declare with more confidence than I feel. Fellow warriors, to victory, freedom, and glory eternal. Hear, hear. I bring the lid to my mouth and drink deep. Confused. I stumble, drowned by the recollection of so many different essences mixed together. The torrent of vitality floods my mind but destabilizes it, at first. Then, slowly, they coalesce at the most basic level to speak of only one concept, the only common ground shared by the diverse people that contribute it. Home. I flare, I explode. There is so much of it that I cannot control it all. I tilt my head back and enjoy the tidal wave of energy. For one moment, I float in a sea of plenitude because the thirst is gone, silent for the rest of the night. Ah, YESSSSSS. So much life, so much spirit. Such a powerful, delicious, delectable drive. What a rush. What an ecstasy. More. No, no more. That is more than enough to regrow 100 limbs. I am so very alive I could make my heart beat until dawn just for the sake of it. I could let a light blush linger on my cheeks, and breathe 1,000 times. So that is what it feels to feed on the gratitude of so many supplicants at a crucial point of their life? I luxuriate in the feeling even as I know I will never experience it again. I open my eyes to find that the others, too, are transfixed by the experience. Urchin is crying, while John has a knee on the ground and moves his lips in silent declamation. The lords and ladies stand like frozen statues, enjoying the experience. I am, curiously, the second to snap out of contemplation after Nami, who is frantically taking notes on a journal. We silently wait until the last of us recovers, then Constantine clears his throat. I believe some experiences speak for themselves. Let us gear up and regroup at the gates. We rush to our own personal quarters. I put on the Aurora and pick my newest gun as well. I wish I could bring a utility belt for shield breakers and other toys, but alas, I have not managed to design one that would not bring its share of complications. It should not matter with how many lords and ladies backed by a progenitor we have. In short order, we fan out of the Starfort's entrance. The access will be blocked by heavy gates, while the defenses remain unmanned. At night, any mortal taking a defensive position among the fortifications will just be that much more collateral damage. Only we matter. We will adopt Formation 3, Jarek says, but Rihanna and I will switch positions. It means a defensive formation where I take point, the best one under the circumstances. Once we are ready, I do not move. No need for us to go to them. They will come to us, I explain. Well, less walking, a slave grumbles before squatting, one hand going over his bald skull. I am tempted to start a hunt despite my lack of thirst, but whatever advantage we would gain cannot offset our doom if it turns out we are outnumbered. Here, we still have the luxury of withdrawing within the fort and forcing a chokehold battle through the gate. Out there, anything goes. I would also not want to leave the fort itself undefended. And so, we wait. The sensation of violation increases, one that annoys more than it hurts. Someone has entered my land without my leave. They intend to stop me. That will not do at all, oh no, and with the strength flowing through my veins, it will take quite a lot to stop us. My main concern would be the timing. Anyone who was aware of our project would have attacked on the first night to guarantee many captures. They would have waited until we were committed, then struck. Those that were warned by the Spellzora and ferreted out its location with the help of the Amaretta or some other information dealer would need time to mobilize. Only the masked vampires in Mexico could have reacted that fast, and even then it would take them at least 2 nights to find us if the stars aligned, given the distance and their complete lack of preparations. Even then, only their powerhouses with access to entomb spells could possibly survive the trip. What happened? I shall have an answer soon. The intrusion gnaws at the back of my mind like a hound gnawing on a bone, but I have not come this far to succumb to my instincts, even as they scream at me to come out and track my foes. A patient huntress knows when to wait. And so we do, in perfect silence. And they come to us. The first one to emerge from the thick forest surrounding the camp on all sides provides both an answer and a daunting warning. I should have expected it. I really should have. Of course, there are warrants that allow one to move quickly from one corner of the world to the other. I knew it. I even walked them. And of course, my sire found them. My only saving grace is that it is his servant who guides our enemies to my doorstep. Naturally, Nirari himself is no one's errand boy, but it seems he is not above renting out his minions' services. I only wish I had been wiser. Semiram has picked this spot for her ritual, and she has linked many of her bases to her network of space-bending passages. It stands to reason that an entrance would be nearby. I hope this oversight does not cost me dearly. Malakim smiles uncaringly when he sees me. He wears no visible armor, though I know he is entrapped in one close to his skin. The ones who follow him do, however, but they do not share his mirth. The first to appear is Martha, without her human mages this time. The powerful Lancaster mage steps forward with a confidence she might not be feeling, followed by a flock of masters. Andre and Vincent, the twins who stabbed me in France, are with her, as well as Jean-Baptiste, the scythe user who guided me through the Parisian catacombs. Truly, this exemplifies the nature of our conflict. Yesterday, we had courteous discussions. Today, we meet in the field of battle, and tomorrow, if everything goes well, we will party together again. Evening, sister. I am delighted to see that your habit of reaching beyond your station has caused yet another amusing development. Our dear father sends his regards, by the way. I think he's impressed. Malakim begins. I am ecstatic, I reply in a flat tone. And a lady now. This brings our little family to 4 monsters. Perhaps I should query our sire to add another sister. What do you say? That is quite enough, thank you, Martha interrupts. She inspects us while we stand. I have no issues taking my time. There are more and more masters deploying around her in a half-circle, clad in elaborate armors and grasping a plethora of weapons. They also happen to be in range. We will be taking the second part of the contract, thank you, Martha continues. So soon? Malakim asks with mock disbelief, and Martha bares her fangs. He certainly is a gift for getting under everyone's skin. It appears that I must leave you for now, sister dear, but I promise you that we will meet again promptly. I ignore him as he departs without a word. It seems that there will be no confrontation tonight, yet his tone indicates that we will face each other, perhaps before the ritual is done. Did Mask retain the services of Malakim as a warrior? They must be mad. Martha and I glare at each other. It flatters me that the one who so casually threw me around during the last conflict now considers me with wariness. It also flatters me that she would naturally regard me as the ringleader, instead of discarding me to address Constantine. Yes, it was all me. I suppose I cannot convince you of the madness of your project. You would weaken us all as a species. On the contrary, I have never felt so powerful, I reply amicably. You are playing with powers you cannot possibly understand, child. Oh no, she didn't. It is because I understand those powers that I am freeing them, before their relatives realize what happened and come seeking vengeance. I spit. Do not speak to me of seeking common ground. We both know why Jean-Baptiste and the twins are here. This is bigger than even our conflict. Do you realize what you are doing? You will deny us Fey blood. I give her a feigned, devourer smile. Then you will have to hunt. You are mad. And you see nothing past your own self-interest. What is the point of living forever if you cannot accomplish great things? I am liberating a species tonight, Martha. What have you ever accomplished that could compare to that? You have not succeeded yet. Then stop me if you can. This is the eternal game, Martha, but you are one turn late. The canny lady lifts her gauntlet and immediately casts an inferno spell. I have been expecting it, of course. Her essence spoke of embers while we talked, a sure sign that she was preparing her opening move. I am ready. The Polaris spell I obtained did not work for me. It carries the cold affinity of its creator, a human archmage named Frost. His understanding of the cold is different from mine. He saw it as crisp and refreshing, icicles hanging from branches in the morning light like so many decorations, crystalline sculptures shimmering blue. His air is pure. Mine is unbreathable. To me, the cold is the infinite vista of the far north expanding to unfathomable distances where nothing survives. It is dark, the wind howls, and the only vibrant movements come from the aurora borealis dancing above my head, as alien as the star and just as unreachable. The winter court showed me the end, and now I will share its strange allure with her too. Polar midnight. Just like our spells, the opposing forces crash into each other. Constantine's chains break the masters as they align around us at optimal distance. The two sides collapse against each other with a blinding display of magic and battle prowess. As for me, I pour the limitless power running through me into the winter construct. Martha may be the better mage, but I have power aplenty, and quantity it has a quality of its own. Our spells meet and my murky ball of greenish darkness pushes back her flames. With a hiss and a flick of her fingers, her flames concentrate until my spell explodes. A wave of cold expands towards her, then over her despite her flames. She pulls the spell around herself and her followers to protect them from the impending doom, as even vampires would struggle against the cold I unleashed. Chaos ensues, just the way I like it. Magna Arca. Thorn roots explode among the masters, wounding those who could not dodge on time. Martha casts something that disintegrates the appendages around her, but I care not. Tonight, I have an endless supply of them. The shadowy garden blooms around us, adding to the confusion for their side. Before Martha can do more, golden chains smash against her shield and damage it. More masters fall, disabled, though not dead yet. We still follow the rules. I disengage from the battle of magic to help a beleaguered Suarez fend off attacks from the twins. The powerful warlord reminds of Tauron in his style, although he feels more scholarly. He smashes aside coordinated strikes with some difficulty, while his opponents try to corner him with a level of teamwork I will never achieve with anyone. A sudden attack pushes them away, then it is our rhythm against theirs. We dance an unpredictable and deadly waltz. My devious whip with Suarez devastating swings against the twins' needlework. An opening is all they need, and a trio of ambitious masters provides it when they dodge enough roots to distract Suarez. The conspicuous twin salutes and engages. Magna Arca. I remember that I must defend myself, though I forgot why. I pour essence into my chest plate's enchantment and surround myself with unyielding roots. My instincts tell me to defend myself. He hits a mirage, the first illusion I cast tonight. Surprise grips him, but I fail to capitalize on it when another blade pierces my roots and buries itself in my torso. Fortunately, it was deflected enough that the tip bounces against my rib cage. I grab a delicate hand in my armored fist and pull in the subdued twin. There you are. I cut his arm off, then pull the soul blade from my wound. The aurora freezes again, sealing the hole. The little aura I get from him tastes delicious. I must have more. That tickled. Suarez counter-wounds the other twin, but before we disable them, I feel danger and block while casting another mirage. Something massive and quite sharp destroys the illusion and smashes into my guard, pushing me back despite my own strength. I turn and face death incarnate, or so the image of the Grim Reaper would have me believe. I have come for you, Jean-Baptiste growls. Adorable, but I must give him credit for the effort. You had your chance, I reply, then I engage. It is my first time facing a weapon I am completely unfamiliar with, and I do admire him for making it work. Jean-Baptiste strikes with wide, circular motions that sweep aside all opposition, including my poor roots. Mirages barely slow him down because he simply slices through them as part of his normal pattern. To fight him, I start by attempting to block his strikes, only to hiss in pain when a phantomatic echo sends racking pain tearing through my arms. A transparent image of the scythe finishes the arc I interrupted, to my dismay. Fortunately, the longer our dance continues and the more I grow used to his patterns. Scythes are unwieldy and there is only so much he can do to compensate with techniques. I jump over a low swing, dive onto the next and lunge, expanding rows as I do. Once more, my instincts scream and I faint at the last moment. A spear crashes in the ground where I stood an instant before, sending rocks and gravel flying through the air. Jean-Baptiste blocks my next counter with a spear. The Grim Reaper grins with skeletal amusement, and the spear becomes a scythe once more. It appears I am not the only one with an articulated weapon. Ah, but it seems he's quite proud of himself. So I pull the repeater gun from my back and shoot him. The roar of the weapon covers that of everything else and Jean-Baptiste attempts to block and dodge the hail of bullets. They gnaw at his dark halo. The skeleton cracks. I expect him to understand and close the distance, yet he does not. In fact, he runs away. I feel all the masters and enemy lords disengage at full speed through my domain, going so far as to leave their disabled allies caught in my thorns. The decision surprises me, until I feel tremendous energy being pulled by Martha. As I watch, a desperate squad of masters sacrifice themselves to hold Constantine back. I raise a wall of thorns before the Lancaster Archmage, but in vain. King's domain, she whispers, and we all fall to the ground, including her. Such oppressive weight. Everything is so heavy. Somewhere to the side, Adrian melts into darkness and reappears outside of the spell's reach, but his attempt to strike Martha fails because the troublesome woman included herself. I fully expect the masked warriors to take advantage, but they are pulling back in droves. With a supreme effort of will, I kneel, then stand. It feels like being crushed by a wall. I hear bones snapping from my victims and release them from the thorns. They will not manage to stand anyway. Step by step, I grow closer to a prone Martha who even now keeps feeding her construct. She glares at me from the ground, powerless against my slow progress. I wish the gun were not so heavy. It would have been the cherry on the cake. Suddenly, I hear a bang, and something clangs uselessly against my chest plate. I look down in disbelief, but no, there is indeed a tiny impact on its otherwise pristine surface. A clump of heated metal shines at my feet. No, this cannot be. I look up to see a single master who remained behind, a ferocious bearded man in light armor. He holds a rifle in his hand, which he reloads with quick, practiced movements. Another bullet hits my helmet and falls, forcing me to face the truth I had denied so vehemently in my heart. You shot me? You shot me. You are a vampire. You damn working apocalypse icicle. He grumbles. How can you shoot me? How dare you? I demand, scandalized. I shoot vampires. And I make fun of them. How could this man even contemplate imitating me? Shooting vampires is my trademark. Arg! Jarek bypasses me and kneels by Martha's sputtering form. He places a gauntlet on her cheek with an almost tender gesture. Do you yield? Yes, damn you. I do. Ariane. Jarek asks as the spell lifts. Would you mind snapping out of it? But he shot me. I exclaim, pointing at the guilty party who has widely decided to refrain. He shot me with a gun. What ammunition do you even use? Silver? With toughness engraving. You absolute clown. You must use chromium steel which you then anneal to add the runes, and only then can you use silver. How do you expect to pierce enchanted armor with those gumballs? Well, excuse me, we do not all have access to Dverger engineers. You could do it yourself for the price of the silver, honestly, an ounce costs. So, we do not pursue? Constantine politely asks. I realize that my allies are busy watching the exchange with expressions ranging from vague annoyance to haughty amusement. Martha glares furiously from her kneeling position. When our eyes meet, she growls. I cannot believe I was defeated by an armored lunatic. I sigh. No, we will not pursue them. We would only take out the masters, and I would not want to be caught in the open. We do not know when the reinforcements will arrive, nor where the Warren's entrance is. I glare at Martha on the ground. What she said about the second part of the contract must mean she wants Malakim to transport more people. He can cross vast distances over a short time, which means that even the ocean's crossing will be of little concern to him. We can expect Bertrand and others to join in the next assault. It also explains why she was so quick to cover her men's retreat instead of fighting to the bitter end. She preserved her forces for a final confrontation. The most minute flinch in the caster's expression tells me I was correct. May I ask for mercy for my followers? She politely requests. The master who shot me takes a few steps forward and gulps, but I merely shrug. We are still playing by the rules. I have no interest in killing her here. Of course we will bring them in. If you swear an oath that you will act as a prisoner, I will even refrain from shackling you. How very generous, she hisses. This is more than you gave me, I remind her with a slight warning. I consent. Constantine handles the oath part, as I trust him to voice it properly. The rest of us retrieve the wounded masters and bring them in so they can heal safely. Those who are still conscious swear as well, and I can tell that most of them are more curious about our project than angry at their defeat. Masked vampires enjoy schemes and grand projects, it seems, even when they are at the receiving ends of them. We even end up allowing them into the dead world since their oath would prevent them from helping our foes even if they were to be freed. Martha walks to me while I prepare to join the ritual again. I must admit, you are considerably more prepared than I expected, she grudgingly allows. I did not work alone. Nevertheless, I am quite impressed, and... She licks her lips. Her heart-shaped face scrunches in a curious expression of longing. I would not be adverse to participating. You would betray your side. I wonder. Not betray. I am a prisoner, and this ritual would complete even without my contribution. She just wants to experience this magical masterpiece, Melusan comments as she joins us. The old witch would give up an arm just to inspect the runnerwork. Martha scowls at her distant offspring, but Melusan shrugs and crosses her arms. You can join if you tell me what you pay to retain Irari's assistance, I reply on a hunch. The Archmage flinches while I politely wait. Melusan inspects her fingers. Our magic is compatible with the Autumn Stone, by the way, she announces offhandedly. Curse you. I suppose it doesn't hurt to let you know. We agreed to serve Nirari in battle, once. Horror fills my heart. I slap my forehead in despair. You absolute fools, what have you done? Only 5 of us lords and ladies, and only for one night. Bertrand and I are included, but the others are exempt. Do you not understand what you promised? You backed us into a corner. Bertrand felt he had no choice. And you jumped down the well. By the Watcher, you are certainly not helping. What do you mean? Melusine demands. What battle are you referring to? Child, later. You have my answer, Ariane. Will you uphold your end of the bargain? Yes, yes. Melusine will show you how to participate safely. The vindictive redhead smirks as if I'd just offered her the moon. She clears her throat and takes an affected tone while Martha fumes quietly. Listen well, child, and pay attention. This is Lycian magic, not your pathetic backwater. I let the sassy Lancaster take her revenge on her equally pompous ancestor and rejoin the ritual for a while, feeling its amazing intensity with the same wonder as the first time I beheld it. Sinead and Sevilla still stand silently in their circle, arms linked in symbolic union. A naked man appears and falls with a scream of infinite misery while I link arms with others. It takes him a full minute before he recovers enough to join his kin, whose assembly has grown to the population of a respectable village. A song starts from the tent circle and drifts to us. It speaks of lost childhood. Some of the Lycians stand straighter. We are still doing it. An army could not stop us. Another one will come tomorrow, but for now, the sense of violation that comes with intruders has retreated to the back of my mind, and I know we have caught a little reprieve. The Winterface steps to my side and offers a bloody smile, then we close our eyes and pour our focus into the ritual. The setting sun marks the beginning of the third night of the ritual. As I watch, the last of the Fae, the ones from the farthest reach of the world, come forth wearing strange guises and exotic traits. Some are clearly of Asian descent, while others are dark and unfamiliar. With their coming, the spell sighs and shudders. Sinead and Sevilla separate. I have never seen the prince so tired, but his eyes burn with resolution, and when he sees me, he smiles. His gaze hardens soon after. This is the last stretch, yet also the most difficult. The royal couple turns to the closed portal and calls as one. Part of the whole, key to the gate, shore by the sea. The wand we recovered the first time I wore that ridiculous armor rises from the ground. It dissipates into strange motes that swirl on the portal's location. The essence I taste on the still air of the dead world speaks of green life and growing things. I can almost smell sap and loam with strange spices mixed in. I have run quite a few times through a great many forests, but I have never experienced such a rich scent. If it does belong to a Lycian world, then I fear John's suggestion of leaving might tempt me after all. The entirety of the Lycian population on Earth clutters on the outside ring to bring their support, and the ritual's intensity grows deeper and sharper. The summoning part is finished. They are all here, and they are free. Now, they will find their way home. Power flickers in the arch. A shard the size of a needle materializes from thin air at a small distance. It grows at a snail pace. Hundreds of Lycians pour their heart, auras, and beliefs in the tiny spike with the hope that it will achieve the impossible and find them a way back. Their voices rise in unison, singing strange hymns that make the air quake around them as the corpse of this old world shakes in its death throes. Even the vampires pay attention, because the tongue of the Lycian speaks to all even if they cannot quite grasp it. I see them as well, the elusive wisps of memories I have no words for. We are so close that when the feeling of intrusion returns, I am angry. I signal the others, and like one man, we gather around the chalice to drink the last Fey essence of our world. As before, power courses through us as we leave without a word, only this time, there are more of us. The chalice is empty now. We file out of the starfort at a leisure pace, armors glittering under the moonlight while our blades absorb it. I signal, and we jump on the ramparts to form a battle line, then wait. I feel the enemy come, and when they encircle us like wolves, I raise my gauntlet. New Surihin. Let there be light. I have no concerns using Lycian to cast now, and why should I? The secret is no longer required. Tonight, I have no need to pretend. Come on out, I whisper, stop hiding like rats. Bertrand emerges from the edge of the forest, clad in his red armor and gold mask and followed by a smirking Malachim. With him come the elite of mask. Orphe the tactician takes his place in silence, angel face grim under the purple light. Jean-Baptiste and the twins join his side, then a darkly charismatic man with a saber and gauntlet who must be Gabriel, the Lancasters' deadliest duelist. A diminutive woman with light brown hair and a calm beauty walks on in golden, form-fitting armor. I recognize Hastings from her description. The only person absent is Dominique. Besides her, we are facing the entirety of Mask's military. This will be a true test for the Accords, and they are here to the last warden. It does not even surprise me that they would all happen to be around, visiting a friend, as it were, when Constantine called upon them to fulfill their obligations. Everyone is here. Haughty Roland and crafty Lancasters have gathered in a golden pack around Safar. Jarek has gathered the Natalis and muscular Suarez around himself. As for me, I stand at the front with the Ekon and the Vanheim. Akko and Constantine occupy the center with the Speaker's bodyguards and his Renwald steward. We are more diverse than our foes, but no less united in our desire to kick their collective arses back across the ocean. The collected essence is so dense that the Watcher opens his eyes in the real world, and its feline pupil narrows on us. The wind dies. Bertrand and I match gaze. We understand each other. There is no need for talks. It is time to hunt. The world explodes around us. Trees are shredded. Rocks shatter. The ground erupts in so many geysers of mud, gravel, and crushed stones. Spells clash in a cataclysm of colors and sounds, sending out shock waves so dense they impact each other with sonorous blasts. In the chaos of battle, I rush Bertrand. Cut the head. No, I cannot triumph against him. Already, his size has increased while his blood-red armor glows crimson. His Magna Arca has triggered. I throw a Heartseeker spell as an opener which he blocks with the flat of his axe. For a handful of seconds I have him on the back foot as we exchange very quick series of blows. The roots I can manifest hobble him while mirages disappear under useless strikes, but as I manage to hit his chest, a backswing sends me flying. More roots catch me and we stand apart, the eye of the storm in this fantastic battle. Bertrand smiles while the break in his armor seals over with dark blood. I mirror his smirk when the aurora repairs itself. His eyes widen in surprise and he charges back in. We fight in a duel, the others leaving us alone, and exhilaration fills my heart. I am fighting one of the deadliest warriors in the world and I am not losing. Or at least, not fast. Our dance shows he is taking me seriously, and so I use every trick I know to push him back, never leaving him time to perform full swings. Bertrand does not hesitate to take glancing blows to land a decisive one, but I am his equal in this regard, and the aurora truly shows its incredible craftsmanship, allowing me to match a Magna Arca manifestation blow for blow. I laugh with delight for a while, but eventually our difference of experience is made manifest and I am pushed back. That is, until a freight train by the name of Jarek smashes into Bertrand's flank, carrying him across half of the battlefield. I can accept it. Bertrand may be my prey, but my priority here is victory and helping my allies. A quick glance around shows that Mask outnumber us with their masters, but that they are unable to bring those numbers to bear due to our tight formation. Normally, this would put us at risk of magical bombardments. Unfortunately for our foes, Martha is not with them while Constantine is free to unleash his full potential. Only Gabriel on their side stops him from having free reign, and even then, it is an unequal fight. I use my Magna Arca to help where I can, covering those of us who are wounded while harassing our foes. The speed of the battle prevents me from coordinating well with my companions, so I limit my actions to sure bets. Truly, we should train together more, yet even those tilt the scales in our favor. I have the satisfaction of interrupting the fight between Jean-Baptiste and our shadow-wielding twins, and landing a very satisfactory punch in his skeletal nose before an unknown lord forces me back. I race across the battlefield, destroying formations and maiming entire squads of masters. My instincts guide me in this whirlwind of violence, enhanced by the Veressence singing in my veins, whispering advice so I can defend my land. I attack Hastings as she is on the verge of defeating Safar, our waltz one of guile and fights against unpredictable savagery, then Niminata triggers her Magna Arca and the dance becomes real. We step up with the beat while our foes are left confused and disheartened. Hastings disengages, but not before I shred an entire side of her golden armor. By the water, this is good. As it should be, with Rose singing and the roar of spells shaking the very air. The vitality of the Fae means that I have no need to care for energy expenses. Suddenly, I feel a pull and make my way to the entrance just in time to see a slave's muscular arm flying through the air. Jarek's falls to his knees with a triumphant Malakim preparing a killing blow. I extend my hand and cast our Sara's signature spell. Heartseeker. For one faithful moment, delicious terror twists his vicious grin into an ugly grimace. But it is soon replaced by deep rage. I charge him. Malakim salutes. Magna Arca. My roots disappear, as if swallowed, and I feel a block on my domain. My perception narrows to my human form. Malakim lands his jagged lungs ward against Rose, locking guard and pushing me back by exactly one step. I trigger the whip and a long, dark gash opens across my brother's rictus. He flinches. Surely you didn't expect this to be enough, I mock. Malakim attacks with a savagery that equals my own, and our duel is merciless. I find myself using my gloved claws as often as Rose herself in this snarling brawl. I claw his face once, but otherwise his blade finds flaws in my defenses and only my current vitality saves me from defeat. My only edges come from the mirage spells and octaves training. Otherwise, the monster surpasses me in every aspect. Sometimes, Niminata passes us by and her hypnotic dance grants me a few seconds of respite. I am, once again, losing my duel, when a slave reappears whole and angry. He roars and a horse materializes under him. The resulting charge sends Malakim crashing back with both arms snapped. Why do they always cut my limbs? The proud warrior complains. Have you ever considered wearing proper armor? I ask, pointing at his naked chest. No. Malakim comes roaring back, but he stumbles, and we all stop. The world shivers, and for one brief instant, our battle lines show the ghostly echo of a circle of dancing Lycaeans. An inky blade the size of a menhir hangs ominously over the two assemblies, solid enough to be seen in both worlds. The ritual is reaching its paroxysm. Golden chains encircle Malakim before he can react, and Constantine smashes the irate Devorer into the ground, again and again, bypassing the beast's armor. Go. Constantine yells. Make sure it works. Go. I run, entering the star fort and leaving the battle behind me. Everyone seems to be holding well thanks to the Fey blood they partook of. The same battle of attrition that almost defeated us in the first war is now carrying us through the second, but that is secondary for now. I sprint through the portal and behold the shard spinning in its axis. The chant of the Fey assembly inflates with a terrible crescendo. Sinead lifts his exhausted arms in supplication. World tree of ours, blessed guardian, grant us your salvation. We beg of you, by all the courts and all the spheres, by your life and your kindness, we beg of you. Take us home. Take us home. Take us home. Breach. The shard plunges into the flesh of space. Reality screams, then it gives way. Emerald light floods the dead world, casting the shadows away, and with it comes the enticing perfume of other world flowers. Lilac and lavender flowers peek while from a window into a vibrant world. The cries of strange birds caress my ears like an invitation, or a lullaby. The Lycaeans cry and scream, struck with disbelief, but their leader has not lost sight. Through. Everyone, go now. The assembled Fae form a snake pouring through the portal's aperture. As soon as they step on the other side, they shed their human form and transform into a kaleidoscope of creatures as strange as they are beautiful. I spot Macias turn into a tiny sprite with fluttering dragonfly wings. He gives me a playful wink, then disappears out of sight or simply shifts to some other locale. As for the others, they race in with abandon. It takes only a minute for the assembly to melt into a small gathering of the most determined ones, those unafraid to act as rearguard. I recognized Turnia's and secluded black sand beach as they make sure no one was left behind. The winter fae walks by me with one last needle-filled grin. Perhaps we will meet again, sister. I am not your kin, I'm merely a Tim. Then you know our way and you are kin. I will be seeing you, he replies with a laugh, then he is through, a gaunt white that freezes the loam with every step. To my surprise, Neminata comes back through with bloody tears trailing freely down her cheeks. Of course, the Ekon would send an explorer. Ugh. They could have asked. You have to see this, my meringue, you simply have to. I have no words. I hesitate at the edge of the green as the last leaders walk through. Sevilla is the penultimate traveler. Her elfin face grows even more alien with liquid blue eyes and an ethereal quality that makes me feel like she could walk through a wall. Then it is simply Sinead and I. He takes my hand. I do not resist when he walks me through the passage. The intoxicating perfume of the Lycian world almost overwhelms me. We stand in a small clearing under a green sky. A tree the size of the tallest mountain rules over an infinite forest of strange vegetation. Lianas fall like garlands from the heavy boughs. A rainbow-colored insect flies lazily through the clearing. I am in the arms of Dream Sinead, the true one. He is so tall now, and I lose myself in the molten gold of his eyes. Amber hair undulates in an unseen wind like the quiet flames of a campfire. His arms are so strong, now, strong enough to encircle me and make me feel safe. From a dilettante noble, he has turned into a royal heir. He gently grabs the back of my neck and I gasp under his controlled power. Even the Aurora's cold aura cannot smother the heat that now emanates from him in great waves. Sinead is himself, truly himself. For the first time I have met him, free of fear and the suffering of his people. A true prince of summer. Ariane, I love you. I have loved you since we met. I have loved you until it hurt. I could not stop loving you. His kiss is fire and honey in a foreign sun, all things that should terrify me and yet do not because he is Sinead and I love him as well. I drown in the passion I feel here, helpless yet unafraid. The urge to bite is drowned by his feelings and the power with which he embraces me. And I am sorry, he finishes. Huh? Do it, he tells Sevilla. I barely manage to struggle, so surprised I am. I can only watch, lost, as the princess of the blue claps her hands and the portal winks out. Sevilla teleports away just as the last motes of energy of the spell fade to nothingness. My way back just disappeared into thin air. I am trapped. I am trapped. Sinead, what have you done? Tob continued,